Chapter 17. I want your Jinghong sword, the man in front of her said. The female arrester's face turned pale, and she said with difficulty, "This can't bear to part with it? You see, in your eyes, a fresh human life, a girl who has gone astray but still has a future, is not as important as a sword." Sun Lang shrugged and laughed. "Little girl, being a partner of justice also comes with a price. Do you know it or not? Don't think that after being F***ed by various heroes, you can F***ck saber." The girl lowered her head slightly and clenched her fists. She seemed to be fighting a battle in her heart. After thinking for a while, she raised her head and looked deeply at Sun Lang. Suddenly, she said, "You only want this sword? Don't you want anything else?" Sun Lang laughed and said, "Of course, although it's a bit cheap for you, one sword is enough." The female arrestor turned a deaf ear to the paladin's nonsense and asked again, "Then, can you help me find Chinyu? As long as her body still exists in this world, as long as the person who kidnapped her has not been turned into powder, I can definitely find her." Sun Lang said calmly, "If she's alive, I can find her. If she's dead, I can find her corpse." The mastermind behind the scenes, the person who kidnapped Chinyu, can you also find them and bring them to justice? Sun Lang replied, "No problem. No matter what kind of enemy we face, no matter who is behind this, I will stand by your side." "What if you can't do it?" "If I can't do it," Sun Lang thought for a moment, "I'll return the sword to you." "How can it be so easy?" She suddenly laughed, and there was a trace of danger in her smile. "If you can't do it, I'll tell the family that you cheated me of my sword. In addition, if the enemy this time is more difficult than expected, so difficult that we can't resist, then I can run back to the family to receive protection. At most, I'll be grounded for a few months, but if the leader of the Hu Guild can't protect you, you can't run away anyway. Because since you want the startling swan sword, then this matter is the purest form of trade. I will not guarantee your safety, nor will I use the power of the clan to protect you. Even so, do you still want the startling swan sword?" Sun Lang's eyes lit up. "I couldn't ask for more." Zhang Yinluo looked deeply at Sun Lang. "Then take it. I hope you understand what you're doing." She took a deep breath and finally made up her mind. She took out a silver bracelet from her sleeve. The bracelet was engraved with fine and complicated patterns. In an instant, it shone brightly. Within the radiance, the gorgeous radiance continued to expand. The illusory light particles condensed into a solid entity. A long, narrow, and agile sword appeared in her hand. The sword guard was like a swan flapping its wings. The girl looked at the monarch weapon in her hand. It was a divine weapon that could move all the martial artists in the world. With it, a martial artist would obtain a mystical power that could surpass ordinary people. She gritted her teeth and pushed the startling sword forward. "Take it." Sun Lang reached out and took the sword. Holding the hilt, he pulled it out. The sharp edge of the sword leaped out, deflecting the light of Sunran. How decisive. For a woman you don't even know, you're willing to give up such a precious Imperial Army sword? What a prodigal woman. Since she had even given away the sword, Zhang Yinluo couldn't be bothered with the offense of mere words. She said softly, "To be honest, it's not just because of this, but you can rest assured. The clan has already said that this sword was given to me. In other words, I have the right to use it. If the clan finds out in the future, I'll come out and explain for you. No one will come to cause trouble for you. But don't be too ostentatious. This sword is very attractive to martial artists. An ordinary man with a jade ring will easily attract trouble." Sun Lang laughed. "It's still the same words. I can't ask for anything more. You don't understand. Fishing is one of life's greatest joys. Whatever you like. But if you get killed and your sword is stolen, I can take it back openly." Zhang Yinluo smiled. Then, looking at the startling swan sword in Sun Lang's hand, a trace of relief flashing in her eyes. The Imperial Army, a divine weapon that many martial artists yearn for. The clan gave it to me and told me to always carry it by my side and use it. Although I'm grateful, I don't want it. Master also often wrote me letters to warn me not to rely on it and not to immerse myself in its power and reputation. Otherwise, the path of martial arts will inevitably become narrower and narrower. Although I don't know what she means in my heart, I have a faint feeling that this Imperial Army sword isn't beneficial to me, but she muttered a few words to herself, then shook her head in self-mockery. Why am I telling you all this? You don't understand. Anyway, since I gave it to you, I should break it off and end it once and for all so that I don't have to keep thinking about it. Not bad, not bad. The ranger nodded. Quite smart. Zhang Yinluo rolled her eyes. I gave you the sword directly. That's enough sincerity, right? Can we go now? Sun Lang shook his head. Of course not now. The female constable raised her eyebrows, and her eyes gradually became sharp. It seemed that her patience had been completely exhausted. What are you looking at? Go back and change out of your constable uniform. Do you want to go out and play seduction? Sun Lang rolled his eyes. Go out and investigate in this uniform? You could just write "I'm a cop" on your face. It would be strange if they could find anything. Go back and change your clothes. Let's meet at a place. Let's meet at Zhongyi Tower. My house is very far from here, so let's not waste time. But I know a good ready-made clothing store nearby. I'll go directly to buy a set of clothes and come back to find you. You should also get ready and think of a plan of action. In any case, the female constable's tone became slightly colder after being blackmailed. That's all for now. I'll be back soon. Sun Lang waved his hand, and Zhang Yinluo went out. The two of them had a tacit understanding and did not say anything like, "Aren't you afraid that I'll run away?" or any other nonsense. The ranger watched the female constable go out. When he heard the sound of horse hooves, he nodded. This woman is a bit interesting. It's just that no one taught her, so her worldview is slightly skewed. Tiska. Since he had promised her, he should do it well. He wanted to go back to the house to prepare his equipment, but he immediately stopped and looked back. An ordinary-looking, medium-sized martial artist in a green robe was standing on the wall with his hands behind his back. His eyes were cold and arrogant, looking down at Sun Lang, as if he was looking at a pile of garbage. Noticing that Sun Lang was looking at him, he flashed into the courtyard and stood 5 feet away from Sun Lang. His eyes were still arrogant. "Master." Sun Lang smiled and cupped his hands. "I'm Sun Lang. What can I do for you?" "I'm a consecrator of the Zhang family." The man seemed to be disdainful of introducing himself to Sun Lang. His words were unusually direct. "I've been ordered to secretly protect Miss Yinluo. You should have guessed why I'm here." "Oh, I was wondering why you always follow this girl around." "So, you're the legendary master assigned by the family to secretly protect the promising young disciples?" Sun Lang didn't seem to be surprised by this person's appearance at all. Instead, he looked like he wanted to chat with the other party. "I heard that this job is very difficult. After all, if you meet the legendary protagonist, there's a great possibility that you'll become a stepping stone and experience point for the other party to take off. Really, I've never seen a young master get beaten up by an expert who had to protect and stop the protagonist. Maybe even your ancestors will be beaten up into an experience ball." Just as he finished speaking, a stone with a sharp whistling sound brushed past his head. It was extremely fast and powerful. It hit the wall behind him and made a loud bang. It turned out that the other party couldn't stand his long-winded chatter. He also felt that this messy guy was very annoying, so he directly kicked out a stone to intimidate him. Seeing that Sun Lang seemed to be frightened by this move, the master friend coldly snorted. With the cool style of a master, he said, "This Jinghong sword isn't something that people like you can covet. The miss is innocent and doesn't know much about the world. She does need to temper herself, but she also can't tolerate being deceived and coaxed. For Hu Huisho's sake, I won't make things difficult for you." "You don't even know the origin of the Jinghong sword, right?" I know. The Imperial Army's Jinghong sword was bestowed by the goddess of Luo. There's also a sword called Swimming Dragon." Sun Lang sighed. "They're all mass-produced goods. They're mainly used to send away those country bumpkins who have 3 ranks of Grand Scholar in the military examination. Occasionally, 1 or 2 of them will be released for you country bumpkins to have a taste of. I gave you a chance, but you didn't seize it. So stand still. I'm going to show off." The middle-aged man was stunned. "You, Then, Sun Lang pulled out the Jinghong sword with a backhand. The sharp sword was unsheathed. The frost-like blade reflected the sunlight like a swan flapping its wings, ethereal and ethereal. Chapter 18. The frost-like blade refracted the sunlight, and a bit of sharpness immediately pierced the sky. In contrast to the lightning-like and lightning-like blade, there was a figure charging like a raging tide. The clear flowing sword shadow and the earth-shattering charge, one light and one heavy, one fast and one slow. They were polar opposites, but they were so harmonious. The sword came and the person came, and the killing intent was abundant. The blade was as light as a swan, and the sword energy was like a dragon, graceful as a startled swan, flexible as a swimming dragon. This was the Imperial Army Tao rhythm of the Jinghong sword. And the swimming dragon sword? How could it be? How'd he do it? The middle-aged man felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, and he was overwhelmed with shock. But before he had time to think carefully, layers of killing intent, like a tsunami, had already filled this small courtyard. He felt that he was like a lone boat in the middle of a storm, toyed with by the power of nature, and that he could capsize at any moment. His vision, his sense of smell, his hearing, his touch, his spiritual sense, and all of his other senses received nothing but boundless fear in return. This was a power he couldn't resist. No, he couldn't even think of resisting. Almost instantly, as a martial artist, his body that had been tempered thousands of times and contained infinite power had betrayed him under this terrifying deterrence. The figure that was like a death attack suddenly stopped. His glabella was cold, and the blade of the Jinghong sword was already on his forehead. Bitch, idiot, retard, I gave you face, but you didn't want it. Are you blind? He heard the other party say gently, I took the initiative to give you my name, but you ignored me. I talked to you about your career and hardships, but you didn't give me face. I talked to you nicely, but you kept talking about people like me. I talked to you about fairness, but you said you were a big D asterisk CK. Are you stupid now? His hair stood on end, his skin was tight, and his muscles were twitching. Not even a drop of cold sweat flowed out. The expert brother said with difficulty, Who are you? Didn't I just introduce myself? I'm Sun Lang. The ranger said proudly, People call me the one-sword Superman. Okay, I'm just kidding. Although this Jinghong sword was an Imperial Army weapon that had yet to be awakened, in terms of toughness and sharpness, it was still a rare blade. At this moment, the blade was close to his forehead. Even if the person holding the sword was a 7 or 8-year-old child, he would still be able to easily cut open his flesh. The expert brother felt the cold blade slide down from his forehead, close to his cheek, and along his throat. His hair stood on end because of the cold Senrin's blade. He knew that the sharp blade didn't leave his body at all. It was always tightly attached to his skin, but his body wasn't cut open at all. Not a single drop of blood flowed out. What kind of terrifying swordsmanship was this? Although your family's eldest miss is a bit stupid, her intuition as an idiot is still very praiseworthy. Sun Lang slowly cut the sharp blade back and forth across the expert brother's face. However, he didn't hurt his flesh at all. His tone was relaxed, and he happily pretended to be pretentious. This Imperial Army is also divided into 3, 6, and 9 grades. And this Jinghong sword is a defective product among the mass-produced goods. Although this weapon of the Imperial Army can bestow a warrior with a mysterious power that surpasses common sense, in the world, yin and yang waxes and wanes, there are always gains and losses. For example, this Jinghong sword. The Imperial Army's Taoist rhythm is as graceful as a startled swan. It will bestow the user with ethereal body movements and increased speed. However, the problem is that if a warrior obtains the Jinghong sword and obtains the power of the Imperial Army, then his future cultivation, martial arts, body movements, and other martial art cultivation will all revolve around the graceful Taoist rhythm of the Imperial Army. This is because he must better utilize the effects of this Imperial Army. In other words, his limitless potential as a warrior will be reduced to only one type by this Imperial Army. Therefore, Your eldest miss is very smart. Her idea of not using the Jinghong sword and even wanting to throw it away is correct. This is because if she follows the idiotic train of thought of those country bumpkin experts in your family to nurture the Jinghong sword, then her future achievements in the military selection will only be a third-grade Grand Scholar. That's why I said that those old bastards in the imperial court are truly extremely shrewd. The manufacturing method of the imperial armaments and practically all of the imperial armaments are in their hands. If we want to obtain them, we can only rely on the military selection. Sun Lang smiled warmly. And participating in the military selection means that you have already stepped onto the pirate ship of the Empire and obtained the Imperial Army. Of course, it can greatly increase your combat power, but don't forget, there is nothing invincible in this world. No matter how strong an Imperial Army is, there are still ways to counter it. And the Empire, which has countless types of Imperial Army and a large number of elite warriors, undoubtedly has the power to counter all the warriors in the Imperial Army. Through this method, they have taken the strongest and most elite warriors in the world as their subordinates, unifying the warriors who break the law with martial arts into an orderly group of power. Then, they have driven them to open up new territories and fight for the Empire. What a brilliant strategy! A group of warriors equipped with the Imperial Army. In the era of cold weapons where a few hundred heavy cavalry can tear a 10,000 infantrymen to pieces, a group of warriors armed with great swords is almost invincible. This is why the Empire can dominate the world for hundreds of years and beat the foreigners until they kneel and call them daddy. Sun Lang smiled faintly and then slowly sheathed his sword. Unfortunately, their good days are about to come to an end. In an instant, the surrounding sword aura melted away, and the noise of insects returned to the world. No one noticed this temporary abnormality. The expert brother whose heart was occupied by shock stared with wide eyes and stiffly watched Sun Lang sheathe his sword. Even if the sword left his throat, even if the opponent had already dispersed his killing intent, he still didn't have the slightest thought of fighting back. This person, expert brother, although I have obtained satisfaction from your current expression, but I have to say, sheathing his sword, Sun Lang extended the hilt of his sword and knocked on the expert's head. That void-shattering, cold and emotionless aura suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a nagging and annoying appearance. But the expert still didn't dare to move. He couldn't even show anger in his eyes. You really are a pitiful and standard side character. I already said that you would be slapped in the face by the main character like this. Don't say that I didn't warn you, but you just didn't believe me. I told you to be a bit more rational and be reasonable, but you still don't treat me as a person. Do you know, this country has a bunch of idiots like you who have crossed your legs and practiced martial arts for 2 years and think that you're superior and detached from mortals? That's why the country has become so foul. But this has nothing to do with me. Even if this country burns in flames, I will still clap my hands and watch the fun. You should now understand that the slightly long-winded me, just now, is actually full of love and patience, right? Lightly tapping the middle-aged man's head with the hilt of his sword, Sun Lang smiled. Do you understand now? You people just don't understand human language. As expected of people from big families, you don't even talk about the most basic principles. Do you understand what I'm saying now? Don't be afraid. I won't do anything to you. I just want you to go back and tell a lie to cover up this matter. As for the Jinghong sword, after I'm done with it, I will return it to that woman. Do you believe me now? The middle-aged man still hadn't been released from the horror of being paralyzed by fear and could only nod his head with difficulty. It's good that you believe me. Then go back and lie. Don't let anyone know about today's matter. Like knocking on a wooden fish, Sun Lang used the hilt of his sword to lightly tap the middle-aged man's head. Friend, have you heard of the trick of showing off and slapping the face? The so-called successful showing off and slapping the face is to make the enemy realize the huge gap between us and the enemy. I just successfully showed off, and I feel that you have already easily noticed the gap between us. So, you should understand that it shouldn't be difficult for me to raise your Zhang family to the ground, right? He tilted his head and smiled gently. So, you must cover up your lie. Once I find out that your family knows about my matter, then the hundreds of people in your family won't need to live anymore." Looking at the middle-aged man's frightened expression that hid a little anger, Sun Lang smiled. "Just like what you said just now, friend, this is fairness. The so-called fairness is that if I want to kill your entire family, then even a chicken in your family won't be able to escape. Because between me, a small ranger, and your Zhang family in Mingzhou, there's a gap that you will never be able to touch. The so-called fairness is that when I face an idiot like you, I can reason with you with a smile, and I can also pass on some life experience to you when you don't want the face I'm giving you. This is the bearing and leisurely of the strong. And it's much higher than the useless people like you who think you're high and mighty and look down on others with your nostrils. Now, I'll give you a little lesson. Since you're so loyal to your family, have such a sense of collective honor, and are so proud of your birth, then I'll tie you and your family's survival together. An expert like me suddenly appeared in Mingzhou City, and I can actually activate the Imperial Army's Daoist rhyme of the Jinghong sword, as well as such earth-shattering swordsmanship. Logically speaking, you should tell your family about this as soon as possible." Sun Lang smiled happily. "However, if you tell your family about this, and I happen to find out, then I'll kill your entire family. You can't be sure if I'll do as I say, and you can't be sure if I'll know about your secret. You can't be sure if I really have the ability to kill your entire family. This involves a question of probability. If there's probability, then there's conflict and consideration. Since you call yourself a strong expert, then you should experience the helplessness and humiliation of a weak person who can't even protect their life and the things they cherish. As expected, compared to killing you or your entire family, this is actually more interesting." As he said this, Sun Lang smiled at his opponent. "Moreover, there's no need to kill anyone. It's quite convenient." With that, he turned and left with a satisfied smile on his face, as if he was a child who had thought of an extremely fun game. There was a hint of anticipation in his joy. Then he held the Jinghong sword horizontally in front of his eyes and looked it up and down, studying it carefully. The expert brother watched as Sun Lang left. He pressed a hand to his chest. Even though he had just faced death, he didn't suffer any internal injuries because under that terrifying deterrence, the Jinshi in his body didn't even have the qualifications to go berserk or shake his organs. He watched in horror as the other party turned and entered the house with the Jinghong sword. Faintly, he even heard the other party say, "Damn, this really is a defective product used to fool country bumpkins. Forget it. I'll just make do with it." Although it's a mass-produced product, it's still from the Imperial Army. It's much stronger than ordinary swords. Chapter 19. Sun Lang and Zhang Yinluo were walking on the street. The former was smiling very happily. Although she did not know what the guy was smiling about, the female detective still keenly sensed the subtle malice in his smile with her female intuition. "What are you grinning about?" Sun Lang smiled. A moment before you left, I had a peaceful negotiation and communication with a friendly friend. Then, I made a very harmonious and important agreement with him. So, it was very pleasant." Zhang Yinluo stared at him for a long time and said angrily, "Weirdo. Speaking of weirdos, you look more like one." Sun Lang squinted at Zhang Yinluo. The girl was wearing a black coat. The collar of the coat covered half of her face. The loose coat was tied around her waist, outlining her tight waist and covering her high breasts and long thighs. Only the slim black heels were revealed from the bottom of the coat. The exaggerated black outfit made Zhang Yinluo look both capable and cold. "I feel that you are more eye-catching than when you are wearing a constable's uniform." "Forget it. However, do you have a Chinibu disease? What's wrong with your outfit?" Zhang Yinluo blinked and put on a "you bumpkin" look. She said very naturally, "You don't understand, do you? You're so ignorant. I studied in the divine power of flames. Many foreign women like this style of dress. I often wore this outfit abroad. In foreign countries, it is natural for people to dress like this. You're the only one who is making a fuss." Bullsh asterisk T. Sun Lang narrowed his eyes and said, "This is obviously the coat of the purgers of the Heresy Tribunal of the Order of Flames, the standard uniform of the battle nuns. You are not qualified to join the order as a heretic of the Imperium. You often wore it abroad. If you dare to wear in Russia, you will be beaten up by the fiery angels from the sky in 2 hours at most. Then, you will be put on trial for pretending to be a clergyman. You think it is natural, but the Russians of the divine power of flames will run as far as they can when they see the coat, as if they see a tyrannosaurus. You Chinibu, you must have ordered a suit because you are envious of the handsomeness and wear it secretly after you return. You don't even know how to brag. With a loud bang, the girl's face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. One could imagine that the shame in her heart must be soaring at an exponential speed. Being mercilessly exposed by someone, especially this kind of person, her girlish heart, hobbies, and lies, the shame and anger in her heart was no less than the shame and anger in her heart when her parents discovered some strange, unspeakable book that she hid under her bed. Then, she burst out like a cat whose tail was stepped on. Stomping her feet, she shrieked, "All right, all right, all right. I'm just envious of such a handsome coat. Can I? I just want to wear it. Can I? Why should only the battle nuns wear such a handsome coat? Although my father doesn't like it and my mother thinks it's ugly, I just want to wear it. What's wrong with wearing it a little while now? What does my outfit do to you? Also, what's wrong with Chinibu? You are the one who is sick." After venting for a while, Zhang Yinluo finally calmed down, panting. Then, she glared at Sun Lang. "How do you know that this is the uniform of the battle nuns? Have you also been to the Kingdom of Fire?" Sun Lang rolled his eyes. "I haven't been there." The female constable obviously did not believe him. The inquisitors of the Heresy Tribunal rarely even see the people of the Kingdom of Fire, let alone foreign countries. "If you haven't been there, how do you know the battle nuns of the Tribunal?" The ranger proudly said, "I've been through hundreds of battles. I've seen a lot. You're not telling the truth." Zhang Yinluo glared at Sun Lang angrily. "Anyway, don't get entangled in the details. Hurry up and get to work." All right. You have big breasts. I'll listen to you." Sun Lang nodded and raised a finger. "Then, in this case, let me talk about the action plan. First of all, we need to figure out which Hall Qin Yu is working for. Then, we go directly to her territory, find her immediate superior or contact, and ask about Qin Yu's situation. For example, did she come back? What job did she take recently? Who did she have a conflict with? Which big shot in the underworld wants to make a deal with her? Did she take any money she shouldn't have? Did she offend anyone she shouldn't have?" Zhang Yinluo frowned at one of the subtle words. Then, she said with some disappointment, "This is your plan? It's a good plan, but it's too unrealistic. Those people from all walks of life are all alert and cunning. How can we get anything useful out of them? Even if they know Qin Yu's whereabouts and situation, they will never tell us. If they answer all our questions, Six Fan School won't have to go through so much trouble to solve cases. That's because your hands and feet are bound by the law and rules." Sun Lang showed a gentle smile. "But I have a special talking skill. I can definitely influence them and make them answer all our questions." Zhang Yinluo had already understood this guy's nature after spending half a day with him. She stared at Sun Lang and said, "What do you want to do? Don't mess around." "That depends on how you define messing around." Sun Lang said calmly, "Little girl, since you chose to ask me for help, it means that you tacitly agree that the constables and the government are incompetent and helpless in this matter. Only with the help of the paladins can solve it. Since the paladins' power is borrowed, they will certainly use the paladins' methods and means. After all, the difference between us and you lies in the flexibility and diversity of our means. If you can't even accept these means, then I'll return the Jinghong sword to you, and you can find a way to solve it yourself. Otherwise, in order to prevent the following conflicts due to different ideas, I want to make a few basic laws with you. We'll follow the basic laws." Zhang Yinluo hesitated for a moment and finally sighed helplessly. "Tell me about it first." Sun Lang raised his first finger and said seriously, "First of all, you can't obstruct and interfere with my means and methods. But I can also promise you that I won't casually kill people, and I will try my best not to leave anyone with irrecoverable injuries. But it doesn't include the damage to the soul," he added in his heart. Zhang Yinluo thought about it and agreed. She reluctantly nodded. In principle, I agree, but you can't go too far. In principle, I won't obstruct you, but I reserve the right to protest and negotiate. Well, it's up to you. When the time comes, it won't be up to you. Then the second point, since you have a request from me, then I'll take charge of the following matters. You have to listen to my instructions. I give you the right to question and protest. But once you accept an order, you have to do your best to complete it. Of course, considering your own safety, when things involve your dignity and personal safety, I'll allow you to be flexible to a certain extent. But the probability of this happening is not high. The female arrestor thought for a moment. This guy is really thoughtful, although she still instinctively distrusted him. She gritted her teeth and said, I agree in principle. Then the third point, which is the most important point. Sun Lang took a deep breath, and his expression became subtle with a little sadness. This you have to obey. What is it? Zhang Yinluo's heartbeat quickened. She was curious and hesitant. What is the request? Is it a very difficult request to speak? Looking at his expression, it must be very difficult to accept. Humph! If this guy says something unreasonable, then I must not obey. I can't let this guy lead me away. I must maintain vigilance and autonomy. That is, no matter when, no matter where, no matter what the situation is, please, definitely, absolutely. Sun Lang's expression was unprecedentedly serious. Keep a certain distance from me. Don't have any physical contact with me. You must remember this and do it. Do you understand? Zhang Yinluo even thought that she was hallucinating. Although I understand, although it seems to be easy to do, but she looked at Sun Lang's eyes that seemed to be saying, you must stay away from me. I feel that my dignity as a woman has been very disrespectful. Then she jumped up and said, what do you mean? Although I can't wait to keep a distance from you. What do you mean by this? Am I that bad? Do you hate me that much? This is too rude. I'm not an idiot, and I won't infect you. What do you mean? You misunderstood me. Sun Lang sighed. It's not your fault, it's mine. In short, you must not have any physical contact with me. Otherwise, the consequences will be very serious. He thought for a moment and added with a sincere expression, don't say that I didn't warn you. Chapter 20. So, what is it? Zhang Yinluo stared at Sun Lang with a hint of disdain in her eyes. Do you have a disease that will cause you to commit a crime when you touch a woman's body? To be able to guess the truth completely wrong, to a certain extent, you are really amazing. Sun Lang sighed and said helplessly, anyway, just remember it. It's not that I don't want to explain, but you won't believe me even if I tell you. You definitely won't believe me. If you don't believe me, you will most likely want to try it yourself with a realistic attitude. After you try it, something will definitely go wrong. If something goes wrong, you will most likely blame it on me, and things will be more troublesome. Damn, I've seen this kind of thing many times. So remember, you must keep your distance from me. Zhang Yinluo rolled her eyes. You saying this makes me even more curious. Aren't you afraid that I will try it now? Sun Lang dug his nose. The nature of what you are trying now is the courage to explore new things. It has nothing to do with me. If you try it after I tell you the truth, you will be questioning and practicing what I said. I also have to bear the responsibility. These two things are completely different. I won't take the blame. So, I've said all that I can say. If you still don't believe me, then you can only blame yourself. You will have to bear the consequences yourself. You're really skilled. How many times have you pushed the blame to others? Sun Lang sighed again. It seemed that he didn't want to answer this question at all. Zhang Yinluo pondered for a moment. Her female instinct made her feel that something was wrong. So she was very rational and didn't make a decision like, let's try it. However, he was really a strange person. Who would want to touch him? He felt too good about himself. After the two finished the 3 basic rules, both sides had no objection to the result. Zhang Yinluo was very thoughtful before. After changing her equipment, she went to the horse shop and rented a fast horse for Sun Lang. After the two walked through the downtown area, they got on the horse and galloped to the next destination. Sun Lang didn't hold the reins, nor did he clamp down on the horse's belly. He just sat on the saddle in a carefree manner. The horse actually obediently and steadily galloped forward. When Zhang Yinluo saw this, he praised, "This horse is really smart and clever." The ranger rolled his eyes, but didn't say anything. He just said, "Let's go to the loyalty building first. The Ranger Guild has a special intelligence area. Inquire about Qin Yu's background and find out which hall she is mingling with. Beat who show Xin, by the way." "There's no need to go." Zhang Yinluo's expression was a little strange. He pursed his lips and said with a smile, "Boss who has given me the information about Qin Yu and asked me to tell you that he will go back to accompany his wife and daughter these 2 days. If you dare to appear within 3 miles of his house, I will chase after you and kill you when I see you." Sun Lang's face instantly showed a bitter expression. "Damn, your wife is 8 months pregnant, and your daughter is only 4 years old. Do I have to do that?" Although he didn't know the inside story, Zhang Yinluo still guessed the fact that he was defeated from the expression on the ranger's face. He couldn't help but feel happy. "Let's go." The hall Qin Yu is mingling with is called Embroidery Hall. It is a gray organization that is not very clean. I have heard of this name before. I heard that they secretly do some dirty things, but they can't find any evidence, Sun Lang said with a smile. "It's not that they can't find any evidence. It's just that they're very good at bribing people. You really have a dark mind. I just don't like this country, but I still want to stay in this country to annoy people. What can you do to me?" "Young man, after all, you have no idea. You haven't experienced the power of public knowledge." The two of them rode away, leaving behind the sound of bickering. "It's here in front." They ran from the west of the city to the east of the city. After passing through a street and several alleys, Zhang Yinluo reined in the horse's head and looked into the distance. He pointed to a stretch of houses and said, "It's in that direction. Let's go. Let's stop here." Sun Lang dismounted and stretched his body. "Find a place to tie the horse. Let's walk there." Zhang Yinluo frowned and said, "Here? What if it is taken away? Moreover, there is still some distance from here to the destination." Then let's play a game of constables catching thieves. After we catch them, we'll beat up the horse thieves. We'll get double the joy of bullying the weak and upholding justice." Sun Lang smiled and looked at Zhang Yinluo, who was dumbfounded, and explained, "Please, you know that they are a gray organization. What is the most important characteristic of a thief? Of course, it is that they are smart. Otherwise, they would have been killed by you cops. There must be spies and spies in the surrounding streets and alleys. The two of us are riding straight towards their lair. How could they not have gotten the news? So we have to enter the village quietly. Don't shoot." After his explanation, the female constable understood a little, so we have to make a surprise attack and check at their door to catch them off guard. "Check your ass. You're not a constable right now. You're wearing the uniform of the Inquisition. So, you should learn the Western uniform." "Huh?" Sun Lang taught the female constable the truth of life tirelessly. The Inquisitors of the Order of Flames are very Russian when it comes to investigating cases. They only care about the result and not the process. If you are disobedient, they will beat you up first and then beat you up again if you are too slow to answer. Their efficiency is much higher than that of constables like you. You should learn from them. All right. I know that you hate violence, so we will not go to their door and beat them up directly. Let's play a game of stealth." He waved his hand and motioned for Zhang Yinluo to follow. The female constable rolled her eyes and hesitated for a moment. But still, under Sun Lang's subtle gaze, she led the 2 horses back to an inn and left the horses there. "You really don't understand the joy of life and the joy of fishing. You are inducing me to commit a crime. What kind of logic is that? Do you know that your cold and glamorous black uniform suits the taste of certain masochists? What if a pervert suddenly pounced on you and wanted to lick your feet or rape you? That would mean that you were inducing him to commit a crime." Sun Lang waved his hand. "I don't think that anyone with normal values would have the idea of stealing when they saw 2 horses tied to the roadside. I'm not throwing money on the ground. Since I have reached out my hand, what else is there to say?" Zhang Yinluo was too lazy to argue with him. He snorted. "All right, let's get down to business. Don't complicate things," Sun Lang said, "then sneak in secretly. Come, let me first explain to you a few ways to sneak in. The simplest, most convenient, and most efficient way to sneak around is none other than the Kong clan sneak technique. It was invented by a master with the surname Kong. There is only one profound meaning behind this technique. As long as you kill everyone who sees you, no one will notice you sneaking in. Zhang Yinluo, who was still hoping that Sun Lang would say something useful, felt that he was being teased. Give me a more peaceful method. That's it then. After a while, Sun Lang and Zhang Yinluo slowly climbed up to the roof along the wall. They lowered their bodies, avoiding the gazes of the people who were enjoying the cool air in the courtyard, and listened to the movements in the room. We are here to obtain information as rangers, so don't count on the constables. They have no obligation to answer any of our questions. Even if they do, they usually won't tell us the truth unless... He turned his head and smiled kindly at Zhang Yinluo. We have fully explained some things to him. The female constable shuddered. What do you want to do? The ranger smiled, then put his hand into the inner pocket of his coat and took out a small iron cylinder. If we enter directly from the front door, it will be easy to alert the enemy and let them escape. So, we have to find a way to force them out of the room. Otherwise, the enemy will easily escape through a secret passage or something. What is this? Zhang Yinluo frowned. It looks like some kind of tactical weapon. Tear gas? Flash grenade? Gas. I am a law-abiding citizen. Sun Lang retorted. How can I use those dangerous contraband? These are quite harmless things. They are produced by civilians and daily necessities. Zhang Yinluo obviously did not believe him, but she looked at the small cylindrical iron cylinder in Sun Lang's hand. It was indeed not designed in the style of a military product. The iron cylinder was painted with the words Surströmming. Even though Zhang Yinluo had been to Western countries before, she could not figure out what it meant. This is a canned food of fish. It is very popular in the country of origin. Sun Lang smiled gently and then said to himself, sure enough, even in different worlds, the pursuit of delicious food is the same. What are you talking about? What different worlds? Don't mind it, don't mind it. Sun Lang laughed. Come, let's use it. Now let's say a slogan. What slogan? Of course. Sun Lang opened a tile and threw the canned food in his hand into it. Then, he took out the red Kylan, aimed at the falling food, pulled the trigger, and shouted, Justice from heaven. Chapter 21. Sun Lang's hand was as fast as lightning. After the shot, he immediately covered the tile, so that Zhang Yinluo couldn't see what was happening inside. The gorgeous short gun in the ranger's hand attracted Zhang Yinluo's attention. She asked in surprise, This is the big gun fire Kirin? Where did you get this thing? I got it from a righteous fellow who went further and further on the road of counterfeiting. The ranger swung the gun, and the 6-barrel cartridge slid out. The inner wall of the cartridge was faintly flowing with flames. It must be engraved with fiery inscriptions, which gave the ammunition the essence and power of fire. In other words, even if it was loaded with ordinary standard ammunition, this gun could also fire bullets that contained the power of fire, if he wanted. It was obvious what would happen when a warhead that contained the power of explosive flames blasted into a food filled with juices and fish meat. Zhang Yinluo was obviously shocked. She was a person who knew the goods, so she could see the extraordinary origin of this firearm at a glance. This is actually made by the king of Chakra himself. The king of Chakra, Jinren, was the world's #1 refiner. He was known to be able to copy all methods and weapons in the world. In this world, there was no technique that he couldn't steal, no tool that he couldn't copy, except for the Imperial Army. The refining technique of the Imperial Army was regarded as the highest secret of the empire, and those who spied on it would all die a horrible death. It was said in Jianghu that some important conditions and medium were needed to build the Imperial Army. Jinren didn't have this medium, so naturally, he couldn't build the Imperial Army. But even so, he created a unique weapon that gathered the strengths of hundreds of schools, and its effect and power wouldn't be much worse than the Imperial Army. But the problem was that in the Imperial Army, only those who passed the military examination and the golden roll would be awarded by the Imperial Court. As long as you were willing to pay, Ma would make you stronger. It was obvious which of the two was more popular. But even if one could become stronger by paying money, this latest model of fire qilin was Taoist Master Ma's proudest work in the past 2 years. It was rare and highly sought after. It could even be said that money couldn't buy it. How did this guy get his hands on it? Logically speaking, the value of this blazing Kirin should not be much lower than the Jinghong sword. However, when he thought of the Jinghong sword, the memory of being extorted by this guy from the Imperial Army surfaced in his mind. Zhang Yinluo seemed to understand where this gun came from. Most likely, it was the tears of another righteous and helpless girl. Which poor guy did you trick this thing from? Then you're wrong. The origin of this gun is very legitimate. Zhang Yinluo was so angry that he laughed. So you also know that the Jinghong sword's origins are not proper. Although a friend gave me something that another friend gave him, if I directly asked the latter for it, he would probably give me something better. Sun Lang ignored the displeasure and accusation in a certain someone's words. He ejected an empty shell and reloaded it with new ammunition. That guy said that he would make me a sword that truly belongs to me. But now, it seems that he is taking great strides forward on an evil path. I'm really worried about that guy's future. I hope he doesn't become a red-clothed man who says suspicious lines like, "I am sore bones." Well, that's about it. Zhang Yinluo had been thinking about the fire Kylin, and her attention was completely focused on Sun Lang's pistol. For a moment, she did not pay attention to what happened after the canned food was broken. At this time, when she heard Sun Lang's words, she listened carefully. As a result, she heard shocking screams, coughs, vomiting, and roars. The quiet office of the embroidery hall seemed to have turned into a tragic battlefield for a moment. Countless screams and screams sounded one after another. Many people rushed out of the room, screaming miserably. Many of them were wearing black warrior suits and seemed to be very skilled. At this moment, they covered their noses, tore their clothes to cover their faces, and looked around for water like a group of demons dancing wildly. Someone even lifted a large water tank in the corner of the courtyard and poured it on himself. Well, this man seemed to be stained with some unknown substance. The corner of the female arrester's eyes twitched. Did you really throw fish down? Why does it look like a biochemical weapon from the Greenwood country? You are really suspicious. It's really the food that the locals like. Except for the strange smell, it's said to be quite delicious, said to be. Sun Lang sighed. Alas, I really don't know what to do with you. Come on. Put your head over here. I'll let you smell a treasure. Hearing this, Zhang Yinluo leaned her head forward slightly. Sun Lang's left hand naturally took out a gas mask from nowhere and put it on his face. Before the female arrester could feel something was wrong, he directly lifted the tile with a hey sound. An indescribable, mysterious smell suddenly hit her. In an instant, the world changed color in the eyes of the female arrester. It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking, and ghosts were crying and wolves were howling. If she used the Western way to describe it, the smell was like the breath of hell, exuding the smell of demons. If she used the Eastern way to describe it, Zhang Yinluo felt that her conception vessel and governor vessel seemed to have been opened again in an instant. The smell could simply break through the limits of the senses. She could see the color of the stench and hear the sound of the stench. If she had to describe it in a literary way, the smell lingered in her nose for 3 months, the smell of feces. When the female arrester saw that Sun Lang had put on a gas mask at some point, she was completely disappointed in the world. She felt that the world was full of cruel deceit, betrayal, and tricks. She reached out her hand and wanted to fight Sun Lang. As a good man who loved himself and was proud of his principles, how could he touch a woman in such a disgraceful manner? He took out another gas mask, took 2 steps back, waved it in front of Zhang Yinluo, and then threw it out. Zhang Yinluo's eyes flashed. She moved at will like a smart and dexterous black-backed hound. With a howl, she grabbed the gas mask and put it on her face. She took a deep breath. Then, the world regained its color, everything regained its vitality, and peace returned. But the culprit still had to die. She looked at Sun Lang, who had a nonchalant expression on his face. Her eyes were full of shock and horror. You threw feces in there. Nonsense. This is not feces. The ranger retorted. This is much smellier than feces. Zhang Yinluo recalled the indescribable smell just now and nodded her head sadly. But in the next moment, she reacted and bared her fangs and brandished her claws. That's not the main point. You. What did I do? Sun Lang said innocently. According to the basic law, I should be in charge of this matter. I just used the ranger's means and didn't cause any harm to their bodies. Everything is not against the rules. According to the result, you see, they all came out, didn't they? If we broke in, the real person in charge would definitely enter the dark room or the tunnel through the secret passage and the mechanism. We wouldn't be able to find them in a short time. But when this kind of unreasonable attack broke out, their five senses were so affected that they would definitely follow their instincts and rush to an open place with air circulation. So one by one, they all came out. He pointed to a group of people below who were cursing and looking for water. He tilted his head to Zhang Yinluo and said, "Find someone and see who it is." When it came to business, the female arrestor didn't have time to bother with Sun Lang, but she still glared at the ranger fiercely. She then narrowed her eyes and searched for her target in the crowd. According to the portrait and the description of the appearance, it should be that person. His name is Zhang Jianyuan, the head of the embroidery hall. Then, just in case, add another insurance. Pay attention, get ready to act. Sun Lang whispered and then shouted, "Zhang Jianyuan." The steward of the embroidery hall hadn't recovered from the filth that fell from the sky just now. He was still in a state of confusion and nausea. When he heard Sun Lang calling his name, he instinctively looked up and met the ranger's eyes. The others reacted a little slower, but they immediately drew their weapons and looked up as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Then they saw a man and a woman standing on the roof. They were dressed in strange clothes and had strange masks on their faces. Then the man threw out another iron can and roared like a thunderbolt. "Dirty shit has arrived." Many people immediately remembered the biochemical attack that had just happened. With the shout of "Justice descends from the sky," an iron can suddenly exploded, and then countless indescribably horrible things burst out. Obviously, all of this seemed to be caused by the person in front of them. Now this damn guy was repeating the same trick and throwing out another can of deadly things. The people didn't even have time to be angry. They all covered their heads and ran away. I heard that Daddy Mai's shout can even scare his teammates. You really live up to your reputation. Sun Lang chuckled and waved his hand again. While the thief was covering his head and running away, a long rope flew out from under his robe and deftly wrapped around Zhang Jianyuan. The ranger reached out and pulled, and the thief flew up like a cloud and landed beside him. Let's go. Chapter 22. Zhang Jianyuan's experience today could be said to be full of flavor. He didn't know who had thrown a bottle of golden liquid from the roof. He didn't know how long it had been boiled, but it exploded in the hall. The evil water splashed, and the liquid flowed. It didn't follow the usual routine at all. At that time, there were also several Xiangzhu and disciples in the hall. Their martial arts were not weak, but they were caught off guard and were all smelly. This kind of thing was smelly, but fortunately, it was not poisonous. It just made people feel disgusted, so everyone was completely in a state of confusion. The strong stimulation from all kinds of senses drove them to run wildly according to their animal instincts. Rushing to the place where there was ventilation and cleaning, then he was caught red-handed by the enemy who had been prepared for this. At this time, he was tightly tied with a rope, and then he was carried in the hand of the bastard who threw feces. He was running wildly in the houses and alleys, as if he was carrying half a pork fan. Behind him came the shouts of his subordinates and the sounds of pursuit, as well as the exclamations, curses, and muffled laughter of the neighbors along the street. Think about it. A group of swordsmen who brandished knives and spears, smelled of feces, and even had disgusting substances on their faces. Even if they shouted themselves hoarse and acted fiercely, the deterrent effect was extremely limited. It was better to say that it was extremely rich and comedic, making people unable to help but imagine what the people they were chasing had done. As the senior manager of the embroidery hall, Zhang Jinyuan was naturally unwilling to be captured without a fight. After all, he was doing this for a living. Although he didn't need to do things personally now, he didn't throw away the skills he had in the past. Moreover, he had 3 life-saving hidden weapons hidden in his body. When he saw the opportunity, he would definitely give these 2 bastards a fierce blow. His body gradually tensed up, and he was ready to take action at any time. But the next moment, he felt a pain in his forehead. A thick and hard stick seemed to be pointing at his head. Zhang Jinyuan looked up blankly and saw a black gun barrel pointing at his head. When he looked up again, he saw the gentle eyes of the man hidden under the strange mask. Zhang Jinyuan was stunned for a moment, and then he lowered his eyes and turned his head aside as if nothing had happened. At this time, he heard another woman who was wearing shameless barbarian clothes and had a surprisingly good figure say in exasperation, "This is your plan? It's better to fight directly at the door." That's right. At this moment, Zhang Xianto's position was very similar to this woman's. "If you want to deal with me, can't you just come knocking on my door? Was there a need to use such an immoral method? How can you be so cruel and violent?" The man who was holding him up immediately retorted, "Fight your way to the door? Can't you be a little more sympathetic?" Although they were a group of black-hearted thieves, a group of bad guys who would do any kind of dirty work, they were still human beings. Who doesn't have parents, wives, and children? If you break their limbs and beat them until they become mentally retarded, who will feed their families? You. The woman was so angry that she jumped up and down. "When did I say I was going to cripple them? Aren't you the one who has been going overboard from the very beginning?" Zhang Jianyuan was thinking about the strange relationship between the 2 kidnappers when his body suddenly became light. Then, he flew out and fell to the ground. He slid all the way to the corner of the wall. He looked around blankly and found that he was in an abandoned courtyard. His subordinates wouldn't be able to catch up with him for a while. Then he saw the man who had kidnapped him walk towards him and raise his hand to take off his mask. "Don't take it off!" Zhang Jianyuan and Zhang Yinluo shouted at the same time. Xiao Chunang even closed his eyes tightly and turned his head to the side. Zhang Jianyuan thought in his heart, "F*CKU, if I see your face and know what you look like, I won't be able to live. You will definitely kill me to silence me." Zhang Yinluo thought in his heart, "You must want him to see your face and then let him go. You want him to hold a grudge and gather people to take revenge. Then, you can beat them up for fun. What a boring and shameless person." Sun Lang was first startled by these 2 shouts. He took off his mask halfway and then immediately put it back on. He took 2 steps closer and said to the people around him, "Oh my God, brother, you smell so good. What's wrong? Don't you wash your hands after shitting?" "I didn't say that. This person is so shameless. He must be a tough person to deal with." Even the experienced and knowledgeable Zhang Jianyuan had not seen such a shameless person in a long time. If a person was shameless and capable at the same time, then he must be the most difficult person to deal with in the world, because you would never be able to guess what he would do. Based on this reason, he felt a chill in his heart and said in a muffled voice, "Friend, this time I'm the one who lost. Let's draw a line." Then he heard the man say to his female companion, "Do you see? Do you see? You see, in such a short period of time, we have reached a consensus on peaceful dialogue and friendly communication. This friend, you know how to look at the big picture. Isn't it very simple? Isn't it much better than fighting your way in? Remember, we are all civilized people. We talk about honor, shame, and principles. Even if we are enemies, we have to follow the basic law and respect human rights. So, put away your little thoughts. I understand that you want to know what will happen if a man who has taken half a kilogram of aphrodisiac and a male dog who has taken half a kilogram of aphrodisiac are locked in a secret room, but you can't do that. Do you know what I mean?" Zhang Jianyuan sucked in a breath of cold air. He looked at Zhang Yinluo with eyes full of grief and horror. "This woman, is she a pervert?" The female arrestor flew into a rage and said, "I didn't. Yes, you didn't. You didn't. I know you're a good girl. I was just talking nonsense. In Zhang Jinyuan's ears, Sun Lang's laughter contained a little helplessness, as if he was tolerating a willful girl. Therefore, he confirmed the thought that this woman is very scary in his heart. He looked at Zhang Yinluo with more vigilance and horror. Come, friend, sit down and talk. I'm sorry for the situation, but I have no choice. I hope you can understand. Sun Lang squatted down and smiled. Then, he rubbed his hands and said apologetically, After all, if I didn't use this method, she would have fought her way in. Oh, sorry, I said it wrong. It's me. I want to fight my way in. Zhang Yinluo was simply about to explode. In less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Sun Lang had raised her reputation with Zhang Jinyuan all the way to hostile. Yet, she didn't even have an excuse to flare up. This kind of sullen mood really caused her heart to fluctuate to the extreme. She even wanted to use the imperial blaze. Her mood was reflected on her face. That really was a murderous aura, causing Zhang Jinyuan's heart to jump. Thus, the gaze he used to look at Sun Lang became even more friendly and cooperative. He said helplessly, Friend, if you have any questions, just ask. If you have any requests, just say it. You don't have to fiddle with the furniture. The Stockholm Syndrome had done a meritorious deed again. Oh yeah. Sun Lang silently made a peace sign in his heart. Then, his expression became more sincere. I just want to ask you a few questions. However, we feel that if we directly visit you and ask, you won't tell us the truth. If you don't tell us the truth, my hot-tempered companion. I'm wrong. I'm hot-tempered me. I definitely won't let it go. It's easy to have a fight and conflict. It's really not good. Therefore, we can only use this method. I'm really sorry. He cupped his hands and said seriously, No matter how much I say, I still offended you, brother. There's nothing to say about this. Even if you want to take revenge later, it's also right and proper. I'll take responsibility for what I did. In the future, if you feel unhappy in your heart, just make a move. I'll take it all and end this grudge. We'll follow the rules of the martial arts world and leave it to fate. If I'm not as good as you, I won't complain even if I die. As he said this, he took off his gas mask and showed his face to Zhang Jinyuan. He said calmly, I'm Sun Lang. I'm just a paladin. My home is Zhang Jinyuan blinked. He only saw calmness in the man's eyes. Obviously, a man with such eyes was definitely not a despicable person. His upright soul and heroic heart made him magnanimous. He had a clear conscience. The fragrant head of the embroidery hall was in a trance for a moment. She sighed softly and said, What a good man. Don't believe it. You'll regret it. Zhang Yinluo wanted to say something, but Sun Lang glanced at her as if nothing had happened. Considering all kinds of reasons, the female arrestor gave Zhang Jinyuan a few subtle looks, asking him to pay attention and be careful. Then, she looked up at the sky with an expression that said, I can only help you this much. You're on your own. This woman is threatening me not to trouble this man. Her eyes are so scary, Zhang Jinyuan thought. Then let's start. Sun Lang smiled and then suddenly said, Friend, we're looking for a woman named Qinyu. In an instant, Zhang Jinyuan's pupils suddenly shrank. Sun Lang had been paying attention to the changes in his expression. He nodded and said, You really know something. Chapter 23. The sudden change in Zhang Jinyuan's eyes did not escape Sun Lang's eyes. The big head was a little flustered after his thoughts were seen through. He was thinking about how to answer later. First of all, before you answer, I want you to understand one thing. Don't lie. Sun Lang said sincerely, You see, we made such a big deal out of this. We didn't hesitate to offend you today just to hear the truth. If you lie, I'll be in a very difficult position. If I'm in a difficult position, I won't let you be happy, brother. Really. He took out a small iron can from his pocket. This action made Zhang Jinyuan's heart tremble. If there was no accident, this big head of the embroidery hall would have a certain degree of psychological trauma from today on. Sun Lang waved the small iron can in front of him. This thing is called canned herring. Yes, it's a traditional food of a barbarian country. He put the small iron can on the ground and took out another small cylinder. He waved it in front of Zhang Jianyuan. This is a bottle of medicinal cuisine. It's the universe's Milky Way's precious drink that I made by gathering white flower snake tongue grass, pine black sand, screaming red leaves, and other magical substances. Not only can it be drunk, but it also has many other wonderful functions. It can help digestion and clear the stomach. After drinking it, you may be able to understand the true meaning of the universe. Then, I have a creative idea. If these two kinds of immaterial substances were combined into one, what kind of beautiful sparks would they produce? As Sun Lang said this, he took out a soft leather tube from somewhere. This thing, as you can see, is a hollow leather tube. It's very elastic and can allow liquid to pass through and flow. It allows me to pour any liquid into the cavity that I want to pour into. His expression was very kind. He thought for a while and then added, whether it's the nasal cavity, the oral cavity, the intestinal cavity, or even the horse's eye, it must be excellent. Zhang Jinyuan's lips trembled a little. I'm sorry for scaring you. It's really rude, but please believe that this is a very gentle measure. I have to ensure that the conversation between us is carried out in a friendly and frank manner. Moreover, I have to try my best to ensure that your personal safety will not be harmed. This is the basic law that I have agreed on with her. Sun Lang tilted his head slightly and squinted at Zhang Yinluo behind him. Then he secretly gave Zhang Jinyuan a look that said, I have no choice but to do this. What does he mean? Could it be that if I fell into the hands of this woman, I would be worse? Thinking about aphrodisiacs and wolf dogs, that was indeed the case. Besides, what were the basic laws? Agreement. Could it be that this brother knew about this woman's cruel nature? So in order to prevent more people from being harmed, he went against his conscience and did these cruel things? Moreover, he even made an agreement with this woman that she would not harm anyone's life? Just like this, Sun Lang's gentle appearance, sincere words, and righteous attitude, as well as his shameless methods of slandering a certain constable, had led Zhang Jinyuan's habitual thinking all the way to the abyss. After this goal was achieved, the ranger began to attack Zhang Jinyuan's mind. Now, please tell us about Qinyu. You should be her superior, right? Is your relationship very good? Then we can tell you the reason why we are here. Whether you believe it or not, we are here to save her. She was accidentally captured by Eagle Claw of the Six Doors last night, but she was kidnapped halfway. Completely ignoring the cold eyes of Eagle Claw of the Six Doors behind him, Sun Lang said gently, but looking at your performance, the people who kidnapped Qinyu are not your people, right? Zhang Jianyuan was still hesitant. He looked at Sun Lang and said hesitantly, Save her? Yes, we are here to save her. Sun Lang said seriously, to be honest, the reason why she was kidnapped is also because of us. Since this is the case, we have to find her no matter what. Perhaps she has violated the law, but this is not a reason for her to be kidnapped, lynched, or even hurt at will. Hey. If I remember correctly, your attitude before was this is her own fate. What does it have to do with me? You didn't want to get involved in this at first, right? Zhang Yinluo gasped. She could not believe that there was someone in the world who could be so shameless. Zhang Jianyuan smiled bitterly. She's a thief. We're not people who make a decent living. In this line of work, even if we die in the next moment, it's not surprising. Why do you want to get involved in this mess? If she is a thief, I will save her too. Sun Lang chuckled. In this world, there are some things that have to be done. Perhaps she was indeed an unscrupulous thief who despised justice and chivalry before, but I think she's probably locked up in a dark room now, crying and struggling in a despicable and contemptible obscene laughter. She must have never craved for help and help as much as she does now, hoping that there's justice and light in this world. If that's what she's hoping for, then I'm willing to stretch out my hand to her, pull her back to the light, and give her a chance to start all over again. His words were calm and sincere, but contained the power to make people believe in him involuntarily. It was as if his eyes, which had experienced countless vicissitudes but were still pure, were indeed shining with a light called hope. Zhang Jinyuan's eyes were in a trance for a moment, and seemed to be flashing with reminiscence. Perhaps he also remembered his hot-blooded youth life in Jianghu. But punishing evil and upholding good, repaying kindness and grudges, and distinguishing between kindness and hatred were not what Jianghu in this world looked like. It was actually a pool of black, stagnant water, sparkling on the surface, clear and beautiful. But if you fell into it, you would find that it was all darkness that made you despair. He smiled bitterly and said, "People like you won't live long." Sun Lang smiled and said, "Good people don't live long, but bad people can live for thousands of years. I am quite interested and want to give it a try." Try your head. You are indeed quite interested, right? You are prepared to live for thousands of years. You're the most shameless and sanctimonious villain in the world. Those were my F***king lines just now, you bastard. Those were the F***king words that I said, you bastard. Why is it that when I said those words, I was ridiculed by you, attacked by you, criticized by you, and you, the shameless bastard, hypocritically repeated my words and moved me to this extent? You despicable, shameless, repulsive, hypocritical bastard. If I didn't already know what kind of person you are, I would have been moved the first time I heard you say those words. You hypocrite. Finally, Zhang Yinluo was deeply righteous. Although he was on the verge of exploding, he still deeply restrained the anger in his heart and did not directly flip the table and curse. But her increasingly gloomy expression, like a black cloud pressing down on a city, was logically interpreted by Zhang Jianyuan as this violent woman's patience had been worn to the limit. After a moment of struggle, this big head slowly said, "That's right, Qinyu. She might have really met with an accident." Might have? Sun Lang raised his eyebrows. What do you mean? We had an agreement before that every day before dawn, whether it was a mission or inconvenient, she had to find a way to tell me that she was safe. Previously, she had obeyed every day, rain or shine. Even if it was inconvenient, she would ask someone to send a letter or leave a mark. Only today, I have waited for a long time, but there has been no news. Zhang Jianyuan sighed. She really met with an accident. The word greed is indeed the biggest taboo of this mission. Sun Lang muttered. Did she take on some mission that she shouldn't have? That's right. The big head shook her head, and a trace of regret flashed in her eyes. I should have stopped her. I have also advised her many times, but she has always had her own opinions and does not obey the jurisdiction of the hall. Perhaps I have been too indulgent with her. About a month ago, a mysterious client came to our door and appointed Qinyu to work for her. The rules were very strange, and she even made Qinyu sign a confidentiality agreement that she was not allowed to disclose the details of the mission to anyone. I felt that this matter was very strange. I originally wanted to refuse, but Qinyu was persuaded by the other party. She said that the price was very good and the work was easy, but she was not willing to disclose any information. She lived a very carefree life these days, taking a lot of money and squandering it like water. But one day, she was very drunk and suddenly told me that she might have gotten into trouble and could not get away. She thanked me for taking care of her and kindness all these years. And if anything happened to her, she asked me to remember to burn a stick of incense every holiday. The ranger said, "You must have secretly investigated. Did you find anything?" The other party is very vigilant and knows nothing. Qinyu is one of the best people in our hall. Although her stealth ability is not the best, almost no one can successfully track her. And the client over there is even more mysterious. I was worried about Qinyu's safety, so I sent people to secretly investigate. Not only was it in vain, but I was also threatened and warned. It was because of this that I began to worry about Qinyu's safety. Zhang Jianyuan sighed again. Today, I still had a glimmer of hope. But when you came and told me, I was completely sure that something had happened to Qinyu. Except for the person who really wanted to kill her. Who would dare to take her away from the Sixth Fan School? I think I understand. Sun Lang nodded. That is to say, maybe she accidentally stumbled upon the client's secret, or was involved in some conspiracy of the client. So the client wanted to kill her, or was kidnapped by the client's enemy for interrogation. There are only these two possibilities, right? I think so too. Unfortunately, I can't even trace any information about the other party. Zhang Jinyuan said dejectedly, although there are always failures in this business. And every year there are always people in the underworld who retire or die, but alas, I don't even have the chance to collect her bones because I am not even qualified to stand in front of the person who killed her. I can't find them at all. He raised his head and looked at Sun Lang. If what you said is true, and you really want to save Qin Yu, then I advise you to give up. I won't give up because I promised someone. Sun Lang smiled. I promised her. If she's alive, I want to see her. If she's dead, I want to see her corpse. Even if there's a giant in front of me, I want to fight side by side with her. If she doesn't retreat, I won't retreat. Since I promised someone, I must do it. I will definitely find Qin Yu. Zhang Jinyuan's eyes were even showing signs of redness. Zhang Yinluo didn't even have the strength to retort. To make a blackmail deal that was filled with evil, indifference, profiteering, and shamelessness sounds so dignified. This guy was really hopeless. Zhang Jinyuan was silent for a moment. Then he suddenly smiled and said, Forget it, forget it. Since you're all strangers and you're willing to risk your lives for her, then what else do I have to say? I'll go make arrangements for the funeral and hand over some affairs. Count me in. No, friend, you have more important things to do. Sun Lang pressed Zhang Jinyuan's shoulder that was not contaminated by the herring juice and said softly, You can't get involved because they will definitely pay attention to you. If you get involved, not only will you lose your life, but even the people around you will be implicated. Leave it to us for the time being. I only have one request for you. Please try to provide us with any useful information and clues. By the way, does Qin Yu have any secret residence? Maybe we can find some useful clues there. Yes. Qin Yu has a secret residence that only she and I know. We will use it when we contact each other. Alas, I don't know if I should go and check it out. Zhang Jinyuan sighed. Since you insist, then I will tell you the location. Hero-san, I didn't expect that there would be such a loyal and generous person in the world. You are willing to take the risk and don't want me to be involved. Zhang Yinluo looked on coldly, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. No. I think he probably thinks that you are very troublesome. Chapter 24. The two of them pushed the door open and left. They turned left and right in the complex terrain of the residential area, walking faster and faster. Sun Lang's footsteps also became lighter and lighter, and he even began to jump up and down. Is it very interesting? Zhang Yinluo asked the Sun Ran behind them. Sun Lang waved his hand without looking back. But didn't we find the most important clue? It's not easy for me to come out and have fun, so don't mind it so much. The female arrestor raised her voice an octave. Have fun. It's called having fun and working at the same time. It's a relaxing and pleasant way to do things. Sun Lang turned back and said earnestly, You don't have a sense of humor at all. It can be seen how depressing the working environment of your police station is. Let me tell you, you state-owned enterprises. Oh, national departments. You really need to learn from them. Then you keep making fun of me and let me play the bad guy. Then you shamelessly pretend to be the good guy, plagiarizing my lines and pretending to be a good guy. Sun Lang shrugged. If you are unhappy, you play the good guy next time, and I'll be the bad guy. Zhang Yinluo thought about the consequences of letting Sun Lang play the bad cop. She thought of the smelly embroidery hall that had been bombed. She thought of those poor people who had gone crazy. She thought of Zhang Jinyuan, who had been fooled by Sun Lang and thought that he was a good person. She couldn't help but shudder. If they played the bad cop, how could other people survive? She let out a long sigh. I'm about to be angered to death by you. I originally wanted to beat you up regardless of the consequences, but the female arrestor glanced at Sun Lang, who was whistling, and laughed. You finally said something reasonable just now. Qin Yu's matter is really not simple. Maybe we really have to face a strong enemy. If you regret it, I'll give you a chance to quit. Give me the Jinghong sword and leave. Otherwise, there may be no way out. The ranger shook his head. I'm a man of my word. You're underestimating me. I hope you're not just saying nice words. Zhang Yinluo shook his head and smiled. Although you're despicable and shameless, you're a man of your word. You're not afraid of anything that you've promised, even if it's a mountain of swords and a sea of flames. Humph, at least he has some redeeming qualities. Sun Lang revealed a gentle smile that said, "You really understand me. Damn it, I definitely can't let myself suffer a loss on this trip. Naturally, the bigger the fun, the better. How can I give up halfway?" He waved his hand and said, "Then let's go to the next part of the mission. The target is Qin Yu's residence." Zhang Yinluo nodded. She suddenly thought of something. "Wait a minute. You didn't take those 2 bottles of evil things with you, right? You don't want it anymore. Is it the canned herring and the cosmic Milky Way beverage?" Sun Lang asked. "I left it behind on purpose as a consolation gift for him." "Why would he keep this thing? Is he going to use it to extort confessions and harm people?" Sun Lang ignored Zhang Yinluo's sarcasm. "Of course, it's for eating and drinking. Although these 2 things are a little strong, they're still qualified as food. I don't think anyone can eat that kind of thing. That's none of my business." The 2 chatted as they walked away. Zhang Jianyuan watched the 2 push open the door and leave. As they walked further and further away, he could vaguely hear their conversation. When he raised his hand, he was shocked to find that his palm was already wet, and his back had already been soaked with cold sweat. Looking around, he felt a burst of warmth. The weather was obviously not cold, but why did he continue to feel a bone-chilling coldness just now? It was as if he was constantly being targeted by a terrifying powerhouse's murderous intent. It was precisely because he felt that his life was in danger that he had panicked and lowered his guard. Even after being kindly persuaded by Hero Sun, he had revealed the truth and poured out his secrets. He thought for a moment and then smiled bitterly. Hero Sun's sincere and gentle face and the fierce woman's cold figure intertwined in his mind. He thought that he had gotten the answer. It must be that frightening woman. She was actually such a frightening expert. She was actually able to control her murderous aura so freely and silently that it continuously attacked his heart, causing him to be at a loss as to whether he should advance or retreat. He repeatedly made mistakes, and, at the same time, he was unable to detect any abnormalities at that time. This kind of control, this kind of ability to control one's aura, was truly too frightening. This woman must be a top expert that was hard to find in the world. She must be even a top expert who could defeat 10 people on the battlefield. If it weren't for Great Hero Sun stopping her, perhaps the embroidery hall would have already collapsed, and even corpses would be strewn all over the ground. She was a powerhouse. No wonder she dressed like that. No wonder she had such a bad temper. It was normal for powerhouses to have some strange hobbies. However, this was also good. Swordsman Sun is open, upright, and generous. Of course, he is a great hero. However, real heroes and good people are easily dragged down by the world. They are relied on by mediocre people, schemed against by scoundrels, and envied by the common people. With such a cold and tyrannical master standing by his side, such a good person should be able to live a long life, although this woman is indeed a bit fierce. "Ah, Hero Sun, you've worked hard." He remembered the conversation and attitude between Sun Lang and Zhang Yinluo before, and could not help but reveal an ambiguous smile that all men understood. Really, it was very good. Zhang Jianyuan laughed for a while, then slowly got up and patted the dust off his body. He suddenly found that the 2 cans that Hero Sun had placed on the ground were not taken away. Big Head narrowed his eyes and looked at the 2 cans that seemed to be emitting a suspicious smell. He hesitated for a moment. Hero Sun said that these were canned fish and drinks. A person like him would not bother to lie. However, the juice that splashed on his body still exuded an indescribable, mysterious smell. It constantly attacked his nasal cavity and sense of smell, making Zhang Jianyuan subconsciously shudder. However, when he thought of Hero Sun's kind face, he gritted his teeth and reached out his hand. He pulled the tab of the can and opened the first can of herring bit by bit. Of course, the overwhelming stench instantly attacked his sense of smell, but perhaps because he was already used to it, Zhang Jianyuan just frowned and did not turn pale with fright. There was indeed fish in the can. In the very suspicious color of the soup, a few pieces of snow-white fish floated quietly. There were no signs of rotting, and there were no small worms growing on them. It looked like it was really edible. Zhang Jianyuan did not know how long he had been staring at the fish in the can. His throat could not help but make a gurgling sound, and he swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Maybe it was really edible. Hiro-san is such a righteous person. Why would he joke with me like this? It's definitely not going to kill me. Maybe the taste is unexpectedly good? Anyway, I'm already stinking like this, and I'm covered in it, so it's not a big deal if the smell is a little stronger. As if he was possessed, he hypnotized himself, then took a deep breath, reached out his hand like lightning, grabbed a piece of fish, closed his eyes, and put it into his mouth. Choo-choo. Eh. He opened his eyes in surprise. The taste was unexpectedly not bad. It was very fresh and tender, and there was no disgusting taste. It was just a little salty. It's okay. I can eat it with pancakes and steamed buns, and add some onions and garlic. It must be excellent. It was indeed a little salty in the mouth, but there was no problem with it. Hiro-san is such a righteous person. Why would he joke with me? His spirits were lifted, and he looked at the other can. Hiro-san said that this was some kind of medicinal cuisine, so there must be no problem. So, Zhang Jianyuan picked up the can of medicinal cuisine, opened it, and sniffed it gently. There was indeed a herbal smell, but compared to the canned fish, it was really much better. So, he gently took a sip with anticipation. F***CK. It's like urine with thorns. Although there were thousands of words tumbling in his heart. In summary, this was the feeling. Zhang Jianyuan opened his eyes wide, and subconsciously wanted to throw the medicinal cuisine in his hand away, but for some reason, after swallowing the strange sour liquid, it gave him a strange feeling, as if the medicinal cuisine had a wonderful chemical reaction with the canned herring, making him feel. If he could accept this taste, it seemed to be quite interesting. Anyway, he had already reached this point. Zhang Jianyuan made up his mind, took another piece of herring meat, and threw it into his mouth. After chewing it twice, he gulped down a mouthful of medicinal cuisine. Eek! The more he chewed, the more delicious it was. He couldn't stop at all. So, Zhang Jianyuan fished out a third piece of fish. He chewed the fish and took a sip of the medicinal cuisine. It was as if he was sitting in the courtyard on a summer night, drinking red wine and eating peanuts, killing time and tasting peace and quiet. He didn't even hear the footsteps and shouts coming from outside. The door of the abandoned courtyard was pushed open with a bang, and the thugs of the embroidery hall angrily searched everywhere for the kidnapped big incense head and the bastard who openly threw feces. Then they saw a scene that almost made them collapse. The smell, the scene, the people, the behavior, and the movements. This horrible scene was simply indescribable with words. Clang, 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 clang. The weapons in everyone's hands fell to the ground. A moment later, a voice full of grief and anger and panic shouted, "Big incense head, what did they do to you?" Zhang Jianyuan came back to his senses and raised his head. Chapter 25. The two of them went to the inn and took their horses. Following the directions given by Zhang Jianyuan on the map, they rushed towards Xin Yu's secret residence. The thief's hideout was usually quiet and ordinary. It was hidden in the downtown area, making it impossible for people to find it. The two of them passed through East Cross Street and crossed Anqing Bridge. Amidst the hustle and bustle, they found a small courtyard where Qin Yu lived. The door was not locked, but there was a bolt at the back. Sun Lang knocked on the door hard and shouted, "Fellow countrymen, Shun Feng Escort Agency." Zhang Yinluo did not know whether to laugh or cry. He listened for a moment, but there was no sound inside. Before he could say his opinion, he heard the sound of a sword. Sun Lang pulled out the Jinghong sword and inserted it into the crack of the door. With one slash, he cut off the bolt and pushed the door open. Hey. As a martial artist, the female arrestor expressed her distress. Don't use the Jinghong sword to do this kind of thing. Aren't weapons used to chop things? What's the difference between chopping people and chopping wood? Sun Lang drew a flower with his sword and sheathed it. After 2 years of training, his control had greatly improved. The materials used by the Imperial Army were also very strong. An ordinary chop would not damage the body of the sword. The paladin looked around the courtyard and suddenly whistled. Surprise. What? Zhang Yinluo did not have time to argue with him. He thought that the paladin had discovered something, so he hurriedly followed him in and looked around. What? Is there anyone else here? Who is there? Do you expect to see a few pairs of frightened eyes like fawns through the crack of the door? Or a group of half-grown children with tattered clothes looking at you fiercely? Sun Lang sneered. Are you still looking forward to the, although she's a female thief who steals and loots, she adopted a group of orphans and had no choice but to raise them in this way kind of whitewashing? Zhang Yinluo blushed and looked at Sun Lang fiercely. I didn't. What kind of surprise were you talking about? The surprise is that, as a vigilant thief, Qin, you would usually set up a lot of traps in her residence. Just like this courtyard, there are 5 or 6 of them, from crossbows to suspension cables. However, they have all been destroyed. Sun Lang whistled. In other words, someone has already been here, and they have bad intentions. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yinluo's expression changed. He immediately drew his saber and rushed into the room. Sun Lang smiled and followed him in. After entering the room, he heard Zhang Yinluo's sorrowful cry. Someone really broke in. Sun Lang looked around and sighed. A single female, otaku. The female arrestor suddenly shook her head like a lion. What do you mean? It means that before the uninvited guest broke in, Qin Yu's room was also messy like a mass grave. Even if the other party wanted to destroy the clues, they didn't know how to do it. Sun Lang frowned, stretched out the scabbard of the Jinghong sword, and picked up a mysterious bright red cloth product. Zhang Yinluo took a closer look. It turned out to be a girl's undergarment. Before she could blush and scold him for being shameless, the paladin threw it away like lightning. F***, so disgusting. I really don't know how to respond to your reaction. Ignoring the female arrestor's subtle expression, Sun Lang wandered around the room. He walked from the main hall to the bedroom. The place was a mess. Sundries and clothes were thrown everywhere. The wardrobe and screen were also overturned. There were also traces of swords and sabers on the floor. It seemed that on the basis of Qin Yu's poor personal hygiene and the layout of the room, another uninvited guest broke in, searched around, and then wantonly destroyed the evidence. Zhang Yinluo looked at the messy place, sighed, and rolled up her sleeves. Sun Lang frowned. What do you want to do? Of course, I want to see if I can find any remaining evidence. Zhang Yinluo looked a little depressed. It's too late. Is the clue broken? No, we must. Stupid. Sun Lang laughed. You won't be able to find anything. The female arrestor glared at Sun Lang fiercely. If you don't want to help, go out and wait. Don't look around with that perverted look. Even if you can't find it, you have to find it. This is the only clue. Yes, I understand. Although I want to tell you where the clues and key are, since you want me to go out, I can only obey. After all, you are the employer. Sun Lang nodded seriously, then turned and walked out. Come back. Sun Lang didn't listen and continued to walk out. I don't want to meow. People like you will only look more disgusting if you act coquettishly. Stop fooling around. We're talking about serious business. Sun Lang said expressionlessly. Because you are yelling unreasonably. The other party doesn't want to talk to you, unless you act cute. Zhang Yinluo suddenly stood up and walked in front of Sun Lang. Okay, stop fooling around. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Can we talk nicely? The ranger looked down at her and suddenly said, big-chested and brainless meow. You are brainless meow. Zhang Yinluo just realized that Sun Lang had taken her away. She took a deep breath and looked at Sun Lang, trying to pretend that nothing had happened. Anyway, Sun Lang was expressionless. He suddenly turned his head to the side and covered his mouth with his hand. Off your head. Zhang Yinluo's anger was completely ignited. She subconsciously grabbed Sun Lang's clothes. But in the next instant, a strong gust of wind blew and Sun Lang instantly flashed out. The ranger retreated a few steps. His movement technique was so fast that he was like a ghost. He frowned. I told you not to come into contact with me. Don't forget. Why are you overreacting? Zhang Yinluo was a little surprised. She looked at her hand and then looked at Sun Lang. She remembered what he had repeatedly emphasized. Only then did the female constable start to believe him. However, as a woman, her curiosity and desire for gossip were aroused at the same time. Could it be that this guy really didn't want to have any contact with women? Why? Could it be female phobia? Would he become like another person when touched by a woman? Or could it be that he had an unspeakable experience when he was young and had a phobia of women, so he usually behaved so badly? Well, from a psychological point of view, it was a little possible. Thinking of this, she suddenly showed a gloomy smile. Humph, if you don't say it, I will touch you, and I will touch you continuously. Sun Lang sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Zhang Yinluo. I say, you are actually using this to threaten me? Is there too much water in your body recently? Or is your sex hormone secretion in disorder? What do you mean? Forget it. Sun Lang sighed. I don't want to mess with you anymore. But I have to tell you, this is not a joke. Don't touch me. Come, I will tell you what happened. I said you couldn't find any clues, not because the clues were destroyed, but because there are no clues here. The person who did this is a clever person who could be fooled by her own cleverness. She deliberately led us to waste time here and diverted our attention. Oh, you are really scared. You actually succeeded. Although you downplayed this matter, you still can't hide the fact that you are scared of me. Zhang Yinluo smiled proudly in her heart and remembered this matter in her heart. She felt that she had won a crucial victory in the great war against Sun Lang. She thought that she had mastered a secret weapon, and she had taken the initiative. Sun Lang didn't know what she was thinking and continued. Let's start with the analysis of this uninvited guest who broke in. I can confirm that she is almost the contact person with Qin Yu. Moreover, she is in a high position, has outstanding skills, and is not shallow. She hired Qin Yu to do something for her or her master that she couldn't let anyone know about, so she had to get in touch with Qin Yu personally. Even if she had to destroy the evidence and divert attention, she had to do it herself and not find someone to do it. Because she didn't dare to trust anyone, she didn't have anyone to entrust it to. No, let's start from the beginning. Zhang Yinluo was puzzled. Why do you think she is leading us? The reason is obvious. Sun Lang sighed. I just think, if she wants to destroy the evidence, she could just set a fire here and be done with it. Everything will be over. What you said is very reasonable. Why didn't I think of that? But what if she is inexperienced and didn't think of setting a fire? Sun Lang continued. This is the first point of suspicion, and the second point is if she is as stupid as you and didn't think of setting a fire. I'll endure. The ranger pointed to the traces of hacking and destruction on the wardrobe and door, as well as many pieces of paper and object that had been chopped up. It looks like a mess of knife and sword marks, which are destructive traces left by the intruder when searching and destroying the evidence. But in fact, it's not so. From these traces, the person who wielded the knife condensed her chi and spirit, and every slash passed through her arm, not just randomly chopping. In other words, they were all done on purpose. Not only can I see that she did it on purpose, but also from the traces I can see that she is very good at martial arts. She is a young woman of 24 or 25 years old, with a tall figure and slender arms, born to be a warrior. These words were a bit strange. Zhang Yinluo blinked his eyes. How can you tell? Can you teach me? I can't teach you. This is a little life experience. Sun Lang said proudly. I have been through hundreds of battles, and I have seen many. You're saying such strange things again. If you don't want to teach, then don't teach. Stingy person, always using such words to brush people off. Zhang Yinluo curled his lips. Then what can you tell? Are there any clues? Of course there are clues. Look at these scratches. The depth and strength are a bit weaker. It means that after she hacked in, she wantonly destroyed everything and then hacked all the way out. She didn't even stop to search or rummage for a long time. She was short of breath, exhausted physically, and did not adjust her breathing and rest, so the marks before she left were a little shallow. In other words, she was in a hurry, or she was afraid of being discovered, so she didn't stay for long. Sun Lang said, This means one thing. She came here just to divert our attention and let us investigate in the wrong direction. She was very anxious and in a hurry, and she was confident that Chinyu didn't leave any clues about her here. This can explain a lot of things. He turned his head, and his eyes were shining. Let's go find Zhang Jianyuan. Wait, I'm still confused. Explain it to me. There's no time to explain. Get in the car. Where is the car? Chapter 26. There's no time to explain, get in the car, and so on is a professional term. The car here doesn't just refer to that kind of transportation. It's a kind of life, an attitude, a kind of realm, a kind of choice. In the context just now, it means urging you to stop dawdling and hurry up with me. The two rode their horses quickly. Sun Lang turned his head and said earnestly, "You see, if I say, no time to explain, get on the carriage, will you think it's very erotic? You will definitely misunderstand and think of me as that kind of person. You're the kind of person who would have such concerns. Don't imagine others to be like you." "Yeah," Sun Lang said in surprise. "Obviously, you know my slang and dirty jokes better than anyone else. You're talking nonsense. I don't understand anything. I don't understand at all." Zhang Yinluo immediately screamed, "Really, don't worry about that kind of thing. Hurry up and explain to me why you want to find Zhang Jianyuan." Alas, the ranger sighed regretfully, then waved his hand and said, "The reason is very simple. She came to Qinyu's house to mess around and mislead us to investigate in the wrong direction. This means two things. First, the place where Qinyu and her meet is not here. Second, the real place where Qinyu and her meet can be easily traced." So she panicked. "So, where's the meeting place?" "First of all, we can be sure that it is definitely not in the wilderness." Sun Lang smiled and said, "Judging from the panic and reaction of the uninvited guest, this matter must be very important, so much so that there can't be the slightest risk. We can't let anyone find out. The risk of meeting in the wilderness is too great." Zhang Jianyuan also said that he sent people to follow and trace several times, and then they were warned. With the previous example, how can the other party take such a big risk? So, I can probably conclude that the most dangerous place is the safest place. The meeting place of the two should be a very ordinary place that won't be noticed by Zhang Jianyuan's men. Zhang Yinluo suddenly understood. "So, we have to go back and find Zhang Jianyuan and ask him where Qinyu likes to hang out? Then, from these locations, find the most likely one?" At least you're not that stupid." Sun Lang nodded. Judging by the time, Zhang Jianyuan should have returned to the embroidery hall to clean himself up. I wonder if he enjoyed the delicacies I left for him. No. I don't think any normal person would be interested in that kind of thing. The embroidery hall, a gray organization, lived on the desires and evil thoughts of people and did some dirty work that couldn't be exposed. Its headquarters should be peaceful, quiet, and low-key. But at this moment, not only was it surrounded by a strange smell that hadn't stopped for a few days, it was also filled with noisy roars and chaos. "Do you want to rebel? Let me go." "Big Incense Head, I've offended you. You can beat or scold me as you like after this. I'm not afraid of the rules of the hall. You're sick and need to be treated. This brother will go and find the best doctor. Li Dabiao, you're the one who's crazy. Although this thing smells bad, it actually tastes pretty good. Come on, Big Incense Head. I, Li Dabiao, have lived for more than 30 years, and this is the first time I've heard that shit can be eaten." This was the conversation that Sun Lang and Zhang Yinluo heard when they came to the door. In the courtyard, many powerful warriors with sharp eyes were covering their noses with thick towels and splashing water everywhere with buckets of water. A huge incense burner had been moved into the courtyard, and a large amount of incense was burning inside. The big incense head of the embroidery hall, Zhang Yinluo, was tied to an old-fashioned wooden armchair. A few people kept a certain distance from him and stood beside him with subtle and distressed expressions. Everyone was busy purifying the air in full swing and had lost their usual vigilance. A friend who was holding a bucket of water inadvertently saw a man and a woman standing at the door. At first, he was stunned, and then his expression froze. The other party, especially the woman's highly recognizable clothes and breasts, instantly reminded him of the fear of being dominated by the filth that fell from the sky not long ago. With a clang, the bucket in his hand fell to the ground. A moment later, a roar filled with shock and anger soared into the sky. That shit-throwing scoundrel is here again. Everyone was shocked at the same time and looked at the door reflexively. Under the collective gaze of everyone, Sun Lang stretched out his hand as if nothing had happened. "Hi." The response was the sound of buckets being thrown and swords being drawn in unison. Almost everyone instinctively drew their swords. The hostility intertwined into a flame that could devour everything, as if a roaring skull had gathered in the sky. Li Dabiao also drew his sword. He took a few steps forward and roared. "Damn it!" Sun Lang took out a small cylinder from his pocket, as if nothing had happened, and said sincerely, "Friends, you are not eating properly." This little thing awakened everyone's terrifying memories of not long ago. Subconsciously, they took a step back at the same time, and a mixture of anger and fear appeared on their faces. At this time, Zhang Jianyuan shouted sternly from behind, "Don't be rude, all of you, back off. Hiro-san, don't throw it. Don't throw it. Don't waste the food." Li Dabiao turned back and shouted in grief and indignation, "Big incense head, you can't eat shit. Food." Sun Lang sucked in a breath of cold air. He really ate it. When he looked up again, he saw that Zhang Jianyuan had used some unknown method to get out of the bindings and walk towards Sun Lang. "Hiro-san, please come in. Did you find anything?" Sun Lang quickly put on his gas mask and then greeted them warmly. "There's no need to go in. There's no need to go in. Let's just talk here. I just went to Qin Yu's house and found that there were already uninvited guests who broke in and wantonly destroyed it." Zhang Jianyuan's face changed, and he said with hatred, "It must be the employer's gang. Don't panic, don't panic. The situation is not so bad." Sun Lang explained a little, "So I want to ask, where does Qin Yu usually go to play? You should know very well." When Big Incense had heard this, his expression immediately became very strange. He hesitated for a moment, glanced at Zhang Yinluo behind him, and stammered. This, Sun Lang observed the situation carefully and waved his hand. "You, take 10 steps back and cover your ears. I'll tell you later. Look at you. You're so fierce that you're scaring the other party into silence." Zhang Yinluo raised his eyebrows, but also knew that this was not the time to pester endlessly. After glaring at Zhang Jianyuan, he obediently stepped back, covered his ears, and rolled his eyes. "Okay, Swordsman's son is really good at controlling internal affairs. Even such a fierce lion from Hudong can be so obedient." Zhang Jianyuan looked at Sun Lang with admiration, then leaned his head forward slightly and whispered a few words. Sun Lang's expression also became strange. After a while, he said, "Damn, she is actually an old hand." Although Zhang Jianyuan didn't know what old driver meant, he still instinctively heard the flirtatious tone in this strange term. He laughed dryly and said, "We can't control her either. Well, Brother Zhang, thank you very much for your cooperation. I have to say that you have changed my opinion. I thought that people surnamed Zhang were all fierce, unreasonable, and tyrannical people. Sure enough, there are still good people." As Sun Lang spoke, he patted Big Incense Head's clean shoulder. He ignored the fierce, unreasonable, and tyrannical eyes of certain female arrestor surnamed Zhang behind him, and said sincerely, "Well, leave the rest to us. You must be careful these days. If you can't handle it, you can hide and lie low for a while." Thousands of words were meaningless, and Zhang Jianyuan silently cupped his hands. "Then, I'll take my leave." Sun Lang chuckled and said, "In addition, after rescuing Qin Yu, I will settle today's grudge with you. If you want to vent your anger, you can bring your brothers here." Zhang Jianyuan was stunned for a moment, and then said with a wry smile, "Hiro-san, although I admit that I'm not a good person, I still have a sense of shame and gratitude. You are slapping me in the face. These are two different things." Sun Lang said sincerely, "After all, I did go too far today, and the brothers in the hall were also implicated." "You see," They are all very angry. Before he finished speaking, Zhang Yinluo behind him said in a very horrible tone, "Let us go." Hearing this, Sun Lang helplessly smiled bitterly and gave Zhang Jianyuan an apologetic look. The chief steward of the embroidery hall also gave him a look that said, "I understand, I understand." Then the paladin cupped his hands and turned to leave, leaving Zhang Jianyuan with an incomparably tall figure. Zhang Yinluo took a deep look at Zhang Jianyuan and winked at him again, but the female arrester's kind reminder was naturally misunderstood as a threat. This showed how terrible prejudices were. After going out, Zhang Yinluo breathed a sigh of relief. "I thought they would tie you to a stone and throw you into a cesspool." As she untied the reins, she asked, "Hey, where are we going next?" For the first time, a subtle look of embarrassment appeared on Sun Lang's face. But before he could answer, Zhang Jianyuan ran out and said, "Hero's son, please wait." Chapter 27. Zhang Jianyuan chased after him. "Hero's son, please wait." Swordsman's son's licentious expression, which was mixed with a hint of ruffian, suddenly disappeared. His entire person became righteous and awe-inspiring. Under Zhang Yinluo's speechless gaze, he enthusiastically turned his head and smiled. "What can I do for you, big fragrant head? Just call me Zhang Jianyuan." Zhang Jianyuan waved his hand and then showed a slightly embarrassed smile. He rubbed his hands submissively. "Well, hero-san, I just want to ask, where can I buy your canned herring? To tell you the truth, the taste is really not bad. It must be excellent with wine or pasta." Zhang Yinluo's expression instantly became horrified. Sun Lang's countenance did not change. He said with a smile, "This thing was transported from the barbarian land outside the civilization, the northernmost place. My weapon storehouse, no, my food storehouse does not have much stock. After all, the mountains are high and the road is long, so transportation is difficult. Even the business of Shunfeng Escort Agency has not expanded there. Only the FedEx Express of the great western continent's Thousand Island United States can do this business. After all, their shipping is very good." A look of pity appeared on Zhang Jianyuan's face. He rubbed his hands again. He must have wanted to ask Sun Lang to give him 2 cans, but he already owed him a big favor. How could he ask for it? This thing tastes so good. Hero-san must like it very much. The ranger knew what he was thinking and smiled. "I understand. Although this thing is slightly smelly, it actually tastes good, right? It's not just good, it's top grade." Zhang Jianyuan recalled the taste not long ago. The more he thought about it, the more he wanted to eat it. The more he wanted to eat it, the more delicious it tasted. He couldn't help but nod. Zhang Yinluo's gaze had changed from horror to pity. Sun Lang continued, "Good things should be shared with everyone, right? Didn't you try to let your brothers try it?" Zhang Jianyuan shook his head and said angrily, "I tried to persuade them, but they didn't believe me. They said I was eating shit. This kind of food must be much better than shit." The female constable pulled the horse and left silently. "I'll wait for you at the street corner." "Ignore her. Ignore her." Sun Lang waved his hand. Women are so pretentious. But this is where the problem lies. First of all, canned herring was not easy to make, and it was even harder to transport them. Plus, the shipping cost was not cheap. Even if you could find a way to get them, you couldn't eat them often. Secondly, no matter what, its taste is indeed a little too strong, and it's not good for marketing. Zhang Jianyuan was led away by him. Yes, you're right. So if you're really obsessed with this taste, I can recommend you a delicacy that we can make ourselves. It's called stinky tofu. Sun Lang smiled. Although this thing has its own taste, it's really child's play compared to canned herring. More importantly, it may be more in line with the taste of us Han men, and it's easy to make. Zhang Jianyuan's eyes lit up. Is it delicious? This depends on your own thinking and improvement. Sun Lang smiled very sincerely. There are many versions of stinky tofu, so I might as well tell you all at once. But I only know a little about it. The real precise formula and process will have to be improved by Brother Jianyuan. After a while, Sun Lang was full of joy. He led the horse to the street corner. Let's go. Zhang Yinluo's expression was very cold. Is it fun to turn a good person into that? You bastard, you really don't know a good person, Sun Lang said proudly. The old society turned people into ghosts, and the new society turned ghosts into people. He's actually not a bad person, but he's essentially a thief. The work he does is not clean. Sooner or later, he'll die because of it, just like Chinyu. I pointed out a way for him to become rich. If he succeeds, not only will he be able to clear his name and transform his business, but his life will also reach a new level. Maybe he'll take in his subordinates and become a large-scale food processing company. Then, he'll change from a thief who can't be seen in public to a decent person. This is what it means to learn from the past to avoid the future and cure the disease to save people. He snorted. You risked your life to save a female cat burglar, and I just opened my mouth to help a group of gangsters find a way out. Do you feel that you've been living in vain for the past few years? Zhang Yinluo was disdainful at first. Then, she thoughtfully nodded. When she came to her senses, she had already agreed that she had been living in vain for the past few years. But I don't think I'll be able to take advantage of him verbally in my life. She felt an inexplicable sense of desolation. She let out a long sigh and decided not to fuss over these offensive words. All right, I hope he can turn over a new leaf under your guidance. Then, what did he tell you? That he didn't dare to let me know? Where does Chinyu usually go to have fun? How and where should we go to find clues? A subtle expression of embarrassment appeared on Sun Lang's face again. He looked up at the sky, his gaze distant. After a while, he said, Duck restaurant. Ah. Zhang Yinluo blinked and looked confused. Which duck shop? Xuandeju? Dongda? It's true that they're ducks, but their people aren't ducks. Sun Lang glanced at Zhang Yinluo. The female arrestor looked confused. It seemed that she really didn't know. The paladin snorted disdainfully. You claim to be the pioneer of the feminist movement. You don't even know about the duck shop, a service industry that reflects the equality between men and women. Zhang Yinluo blinked and thought for a long time. Then, she figured out what the duck shop was. The female arrestor's face instantly turned red. She screamed, so it's that kind of place. She was really a little panicked this time. She began to stammer. Why? Why does Chinyu go to that kind of place? Sun Lang laughed heartily and said, How would I know? But if it's that kind of place, it's probably to have sex with male prostitutes. From the female arrestor's furious appearance, her impression of Chinyu in her heart instantly fell into the negative value. Sun Lang felt that this idiot at this moment had a dark thought of, why should I waste my time and effort for such a woman and even compensate her with the Jinghong sword? He couldn't help fanning the flames. Don't think too much. Although she doesn't do proper things, stealing, robbing, and even strolling around the hive, but maybe she's still a good girl. Ha ha ha! Zhang Yinluo glared at Sun Lang fiercely. Why don't you feel angry at all? That's that kind of place. A group of men with hands and feet. They don't rely on their own efforts and hands to make a living. Instead, they sell their bodies. This was the view of the mainstream society of the empire, or it was the dominant view of the human civilization since ancient times. The mainstream society of a human race was a patriarchal society. Therefore, the public opinion naturally despised and abhorred men selling their bodies because it was a great insult to the status and dignity of men. However, it was useless. Since ancient times, the ones who had the most fun with men were still men. F***ck, gaze. It doesn't matter. In my eyes, they're no different from the pedestrians on the road. I don't care what they do for a living, and I'm not interested in their thoughts. I don't care if they feel inferior and lonely because of this, and I don't care if they're proud of their profession. In life, everyone has their own way of living. If you don't even understand your own affairs, don't be indignant for others. Sun Lang smiled. Don't look down on others from your moral high ground. Their existence is reasonable. Whether they're gigolos or prostitutes, they all have their reasons and social significance. You can look down on them, but just despise them in your heart. Zhang Yinluo rolled his eyes. You are the only one with a lot of fallacious arguments. You will gradually understand whether or not they're fallacious arguments in the future. Sun Lang smiled slightly. Seeing that she was still anxious, As if she was afraid of being dazzled, he explained, "It's not as exaggerated as you think. It's not the kind of place full of laughter, trading, and debauchery. It's just the most unfashionable place. Chinyu goes in and out of the most high-end kind. I recognize that place for the time being. In theory, there is no asshole trading. Everyone at most drinks, chats, plays the piano, and sings a song to release the pressure of life." Seeing that the female arrestor obviously did not believe him, he continued to explain, "Whether it is a brothel or a brothel, they're all divided into different grades. Prostitutes are old prostitutes who can have sex with a few coins, and famous prostitutes who can only have a tea party with 100 taels of silver. The same is true for gigolos. There is also a cross-dresser who is proficient in both literature and martial arts, poetry and painting, musical instruments, chess, and a zither, and can play a good flute. He could do one or none. He knows how to play from top to bottom. He is elegant and knows how to have fun. Therefore, men and women love him, young and old alike. He is highly sought after by high officials and nobles. He is better than all the famous prostitutes in the world, making those famous prostitutes feel ashamed. The latter basically do not need to use their beauty to entertain people. They, in their own foundation, knowledge, and communication skills allow them to move freely among the high officials and nobles." Zhang Yinluo listened to his explanation and squinted. "Why do you know so much about it? Are you also a veteran and have seen a lot?" Sun Lang said angrily, "Don't accuse me. That's the only thing I've never fought before." The female arrestor suddenly felt that something was wrong. Wait, high officials and nobles, men and women love each other? Then isn't that a gigolo? I suddenly realized that as a feminist, you are really unqualified. Seeing that Zhang Yinluo's panic did not seem to be fake, Sun Lang said in surprise, "Don't tell me that you don't know that the elephant brothel and gigolos basically served men in the early days. It was not until later that the brothel slowly developed to serve women." Hey. Zhang Yinluo exclaimed. "Men and men? How? Sun Lang looked at Zhang Yinluo, whose face was as red as a big apple. His eyes were filled with a desire for knowledge, as if he was ready to awaken at any time. He was silent for a moment, then suddenly raised his hands and cupped his face. "You are so annoying. How dare you ask me this question? How dare you?" Chapter 28. How shameless is this? Faced with the sudden change in Sun Lang's style, Zhang Yinluo resisted the urge to draw her sword. Every time this ranger appeared, he would refresh her understanding of shamelessness and despicableness. Perhaps this guy was the most shameless person in the world. She sighed. "Well, let's not talk about this anymore. Since there are clues about Chinyu, we have to go through a mountain of daggers and a sea of flames." However, Sun Lang did not let go of the great opportunity to tease the female arrestor. "Maybe that place will open the door to a new world for you. Maybe you will awaken some very suspicious hobbies." Zhang Yinluo blushed. God knew what she was thinking at that moment. However, after spending some time together and being bombarded by Sun Lang's incessant and irritating verbal violence, she had become better at bickering. The female arrestor rolled her eyes and immediately changed the topic. "You have the face to talk about me? I haven't asked you yet. How do you know that place like the back of your hand? Have you been there before? You're a pervert. You're obviously a man." Sun Lang's expression became slightly unnatural. He snorted. "I'm not interested in that place. It's just that a troublesome guy pestered me and wanted me to work there." Zhang Yinluo glanced at Sun Lang. She turned her head expressionlessly and covered her mouth. "Puff, you're a fast learner." Sun Lang's expression was a little gloomy. "What are you laughing at?" "Of course I'm laughing at you. Why don't you look in the mirror first when you're lying?" Zhang Yinluo looked at his expression and thought that she had one around. She was in a good mood and continued to attack. "You mean someone wants you to be a gigolo? That's too harsh." Sun Lang said proudly. "That's called male par, a career where I accompany those resentful women and heroines to drink, chat, and even discuss some of my life experiences. To be honest, that guy's vision is not wrong. If I were to do this business, I would definitely become famous in 3 months, and my name would shake the entire country in 1 year. I don't need to sell my pure body. I only need my considerate hands and gentlemanly soul to make all the female customers kneel at my crotch and become the legendary Night King. Zhang Yinluo laughed and pointed at Sun Lang, saying, "You have a bad temper, you are arrogant, you are eccentric, you have a vicious mouth, you are obscene, your behavior is dirty, and you have a strong sense of evil. You also like to tease people and treat everyone as fools. It would be strange if you could be hospitable. I'm afraid I'll be beaten to death by the brothel keeper in less than 3 days." The paladin sighed. "I say, if you speak so harshly, you'll be easily slapped in the face." Zhang Yinluo thought that he had won a great victory over Sun Lang today. It was the first time that Yinluo, the heroine, had won in a verbal confrontation. Just as he was about to happily add insult to injury, he suddenly heard the roar of a gun salute in front of them. Then came the sound of cannon salutes, one after another. Fireworks exploded in the sky. Although it was daytime, they still blossomed with dazzling flames. Zhang Yinluo was bewildered. He looked around and found that while the two were talking, they had already arrived at a small garden facing the street and by the river. He could faintly hear the melodious sound of a zither, the sound of strings, the gurgling of water, and the laughter of beautiful women. The garden was decorated with buildings and overhanging eaves. It was elegant and full of emotion. He didn't know whose garden it was. The sound of uniform footsteps came from inside the garden, and then the gate opened wide. Brocade robes fluttered in the wind, and dozens of valiant and handsome men, dressed as scholars, rushed out in an orderly manner. Then they lined up in 2 rows and stood in front of the gate. Inside the gate, music and bamboo instruments were melodious, and the sound of a phoenix flute was heard. A red carpet flowed out of the gate like flowing silk, and it spread all the way down the steps, all the way to dozens of feet away. Zhang Yinluo exclaimed, "What are they doing? What a big lineup." Sun Lang's eyes twitched. He whispered, "Damn it, a combination of Chinese and Western. Half Chinese, but not foreign. Idiot." The dozens of men in brocade put their hands behind their backs, took a step back and bowed their heads at the same time. Inside the door, there was a surge of people. Some were dressed as martial artists. Some were dressed as Western gentlemen. Some were dressed as scholars. And some were dressed as generals. Some were handsome. Some were heroic. And some were as dignified as a mountain. A group of handsome men with outstanding physiques and dazzling appearances escorted a peerless beauty through the gate and walked out. It was unknown who had sprinkled petals like rain in the sky, rustling down. The beauty came out from the rain of petals, followed by countless handsome men behind her. It was simply gorgeous to the extreme. But no matter how prominent the momentum was, how gorgeous the scene was, and how charming the handsome men were, there was only one person who was the eternal focus here, attracting all eyes to herself. Even Zhang Yinluo, who was also a woman, felt a sense of inferiority in addition to being stunned. She was too beautiful. It was not just her appearance and figure, but more importantly, her temperament. That beauty was dazzling, dignified, and holy. It was as if every finger of hers was filled with charm. Every step she took, every sway of her waist, every blink of her eyes, and every smile on her face was like a peerless beauty that had been tempered thousands of times. Every moment that froze in time would become a masterpiece that would be passed down for generations, and this peerless beauty would be passed down for eternity. Zhang Yinluo almost had the impulse to cover her face and run away. As a woman, she didn't even have the courage to stand near her. No wonder she was surrounded by men. Which woman dared to stand beside her? At this time, Sun Lang comforted her. Relax, relax. The most important thing to be a person is to be happy. Don't look at those things that you will never get. Think about it. Although you are very violent, unreasonable, and have an excessive sense of justice, you don't think before you speak, and you don't have the charm of a woman. You don't know how to act coquettishly, and you don't know how to act cute, but at least in terms of breasts, You can perfectly crush this guy." The shame and frustration of being a woman made Zhang Yinluo not even have the mood to roar. She whispered, "Let's get out of the way. Don't block his way." Sun Lang just chuckled and didn't move. Zhang Yinluo thought that this guy's brain had gone haywire again. She couldn't use common sense to judge this guy. What if this bastard took out a can of herring and threw it at her on a whim? When she thought of that scene, she fiercely shuddered. That scene was simply too beautiful to think about. But in the blink of an eye, a frightening thought jumped out of her mind. Such a beautiful person, such a fairy with outstanding temperament, a peerless beauty surrounded by a retinue of attendants, a peerless beauty surrounded by beautiful men. Would she always maintain this kind of posture? Was he pretending, or was he for real? If she was hit by a can of herring, no, how could I think like that? Zhang Yinluo? Oh, Zhang Yinluo, when did you become such a bad person? She must have been infected by this guy next to her. At this time, Sun Lang suddenly asked, "What's wrong?" As a woman, your jealous nature has finally awakened? Do you need me to provide you with tools? Zhang Yinluo panicked and said loudly, "No." She stuttered and changed the topic. "So let's go quickly. She must have something important to do. You're blocking her way and being stared at by so many people. Don't you feel ashamed?" Before Sun Lang could answer, Zhang Yinluo suddenly realized that the peerless beauty suddenly looked in their direction and then smiled. She was so charming that it was as if spring had returned to the earth and all living things were shining together. "She's looking at me. She smiled at me." Zhang Yinluo shouted in a low voice, "Let's go quickly. We're blocking her way." Then she heard a soft and sweet laughter that sounded like heavenly music. "Master Sun, why are you so late?" "Sorry, we'll go now." "Eh? Master Sun?" Zhang Yinluo looked around. No one came forward to greet her, and no one came forward. Therefore, she gradually turned her sluggish gaze to a certain person beside her with a subtle expression. Master Sun?" Before she could recover from her stupor, the beauty hurried over and bowed like a man. Her posture was very graceful, and her words were not pretentious. They were full of joy of meeting an old friend and pretended to be angry. "You didn't tell us before you came, causing us to be in a hurry and not be able to greet you properly. If we knew that Master Sun was coming, we would have closed our business for 3 days to renovate and clean, open the incense hall, and invite guests. We wouldn't have been so hasty in greeting like now, making people laugh at us." Zhang Yinluo almost thought that she was dreaming. She stuttered, Looking for you? Why is she looking for you?" "Just as you said before," Sun Lang said expressionlessly. "Looking for me to be a gigolo." Chapter 29. So what's going on? Is this the Anxiang restaurant you mentioned? And this peerlessly beautiful fairy-like figure was the owner of this duck shop? And to hire you as a gigolo? Hiring someone like you, who has a vicious mouth, dirty heart, cold personality, and likes to throw shit on people's heads, to serve women? How can a fellow like you do such a job? I've been working with you for half a day, and I'm about to lose my mind from anger. Zhang Yinluo felt that her worldview had been challenged and impacted, but she had no choice but to believe everything in front of her. The owner of Elephant Ant had already arrived in front of Sun Lang. She clapped her hands, and 3 beautiful young men behind her brought out 3 trays. The first tray had a book, the second tray had a leather whip, and the third tray had a golden key. The beauty held her sleeves with one hand, and the other hand brushed the 3 items one by one. She smiled and said, "The letter of appointment with silver books and copper coupons, the iron-handle strong whip to discipline everyone, and the key to the storage room. Ever since we parted that day, I've been carrying these 3 items with me all the time, waiting for you to change your mind and come to my Flying Phoenix Pavilion to spread your knowledge. Even though it's a mountain of gold and a sea of silver, I'm not stingy." After she finished speaking, she bowed and said, "Master, this lowly concubine has been waiting for you for a long time." As soon as she finished speaking, the cowherds behind her said in unison, "Master, We have been waiting for you for a long time. Mother asterisk Kerr, retard. Sun Lang said coldly. The people behind, go do what you need to do. I don't plan to work here. I have something to ask you today. Mushroom, you stay. The beauty was taken aback. She raised her head, her eyes sparkling and her face full of disappointment. Bullshit, Boss Sun Lang said impatiently. Acting first and reporting later won't work on me. Tell your underlings to run. Mother asterisk Kerr, they're all more handsome than me. Are they looking for a beating? How annoying. She pursed her lips, her face showing the anger of a little girl. Every frown and smile of hers was as beautiful and captivating as ever. Even Zhang Yinluo, as a woman, felt her heart race and did not dare to stare at her. Perhaps if an ordinary man saw her, he would even forget his surname. The female arrester stole a glance at Sun Lang, only to find that the paladin had an impatient look on his face. He still had that, I really want to throw some shit on your head, look on his face. Surprisingly, he was not affected at all. Was this guy really that heartless? Or was he really unmoved by women? Really, you made me happy for nothing. The beauty sighed and waved her hand. Let's go, let's go. Our Flying Phoenix Pavilion is just a small business. They won't take a liking to us. When the male prostitutes heard this, they immediately stood up. Some of them brought sweeping tools from the garden to clean up the flower petals on the road. Some of them began to roll up the carpet. Even more people left in an orderly manner. After a moment, there was no one left, as if nothing had happened. The peerless beauty also turned around to leave. Her voice was much colder. Goodbye. Stop. Sun Lang said. I said you can stay. I have something to talk to you about. The beauty snorted without turning her head. Humph. I'm a master of the Flying Phoenix Pavilion. I won't see any guests. Besides, the Flying Phoenix Pavilion only caters to girls. If you want to have fun in the Elephant Ant Pavilion, please go to the South Yard to find a small official. Is that so? Sun Lang smiled eerily. I didn't know that you also have a business in Mingzhou City. I didn't give you a calendar when you opened. Today, I'll give you a bonus. With that, he took out a small iron can from his pocket. Seeing that, Zhang Yinluo turned pale with fright. Before she could snatch it, the beauty turned around and shouted angrily, How dare you? Sun Lang chuckled and tossed the can of unknown substance in the air. There's nothing in this world that I don't dare to do. If you have the ability, come and beat me. There's nothing you don't dare to do. The fairy-like beauty put her hands on her hips and shouted, Do you dare to do me? Just a moment ago, she had the appearance of an untainted and pure fairy. But now, she was cute, innocent, angry, and bold. Not only did she not arouse disgust, she instead made people feel that she was straightforward and cute. In the blink of an eye, she had two completely different images. Her personality and temperament changed so quickly that it opened Zhang Yinluo's eyes. However, what opened her eyes the most was that a certain person, when facing such a peerless beauty with peerless grace, actually spoke vulgarities as if nothing had happened. Daring to do it and doing it are two different things. Sun Lang picked his nose. Stop talking nonsense. I have something to ask you. Be obedient and cooperate. Otherwise, I'll find 100 men to fuck you. Hey, although I don't know what your relationship is and how close you are, it's too rude to talk like that. Seeing Sun Lang hurling vulgarities at a peerless beauty who was as beautiful as a fairy, even Zhang Yinluo couldn't stand it anymore. She spoke up to stop him. Can't you sit down and talk properly? After all, we have something to ask of you. This little sister has a good temper. She's much better than you. The beauty smiled faintly and took 2 steps forward. Little sister, you're such a good person. Why are you mixing with this kind of guy? He didn't bully you, did he? Her voice was soft and sweet, evoking a myriad of thoughts. Zhang Yinluo immediately recalled that she had lost her Jinghong sword to the guy beside her and had been teased and entertained by him along the way. She could not help but feel a lump at her throat. Sister, Sun Lang looked at the sky and said lightly, This guy is a man. 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 This guy. Zhang Yinluo's hair stood on end. She jumped back 20 feet and hid behind Sun Lang, like a frightened deer. She stammered, "W.A." But the next moment, she felt that she had been fooled. The beauty in front of her was like a fairy. Her eyes and smile were soul-stirring. She wasn't inferior to her master. "Is this a man? You must be kidding. If this is a man, there aren't many women in the world." "Don't talk. Feel it with your heart. Although I understand that your self-esteem and confidence as a woman have been beaten to pieces, you still have to respect the objective facts. Come, take a deep breath and straighten your chest. Go to hell." Zhang Yinluo jumped to the side and pointed at Sun Lang. "It's too rude to say that a girl is a man. Thank you, sister, for speaking up for justice. But it's useless. He's that kind of person. He's stubborn and one-track-minded. He won't listen or believe anything I say." The fairy looked sad and pretended to wipe her tears. "He won't listen no matter how I explain. I told you that you can see it with your own eyes and check it with your own hands. You won't do it or believe it. Alas, haha." Sun Lang was unmoved. "I'm not a fool. How can I be fooled by you? I knew it." The beauty smiled helplessly and then curtsied to Zhang Yinluo. "My surname is Gu and my name is Wei Wei. Can I call you sister?" Her appearance and temperament were extremely attractive to girls, causing Zhang Yinluo to be at a loss as to what to do. "Oh, of course, my name is Zhang Yinluo. I can't be happier to have you as my elder sister," Sun Lang murmured expressionlessly next to the female arrestor. "He is a man. He is a man. He is a man. He is a man." The two of them glared at Sun Lang at the same time and then exchanged a helpless look. Gu Weiwei waved her hands. "Let's talk inside. Although we have an unwelcome guest, we still need to be polite." The master of the Flying Phoenix Pavilion was very experienced and had very sharp eyes. Although this young girl did not seem to get along with Sun Lang, she subconsciously trusted him. So when she heard that he was a man, although she did not believe it, she did feel a thorn in her heart and did not want to get close to him. Gu Weiwei knew very well what was going on, so although she spoke politely, she kept a distance from Zhang Yinluo, so as not to make things difficult for her. And Sun Lang was a man who was very polite and did not want to get close to anyone. So the three of them kept a distance from each other and walked into the Flying Phoenix Pavilion in a strange formation. After they entered, they saw a lot of water flowing in the courtyard and lotuses blooming in the pond. The environment was quiet and elegant, making one feel relaxed and happy. What a wonderful garden. It must have been built by a famous master. Zhang Yinluo was born in a big family, and she was the daughter of a rich family. She had also received an elite education, so the decoration of this place suited her very well. She enjoyed the flowers, trees, and pavilions in a pleasant mood, wondering why she had not known that there was such a place in Mingzhou City. Sun Lang broke her little bourgeois soul expressionlessly. "But it is a brothel. Can't you sew your mouth shut, you bastard?" At this moment, Gu Weiwei beckoned to a handsome butler. "Take these two guests to the listening snow house and treat them carefully. Don't cause any trouble. Mr. Sun is the most murderous man in the world. If he is pissed off, even if the Flying Phoenix Pavilion is filled with blood, no one will stand up for us, understand?" Zhang Yinluo said with a smile. "Sister Gu, you are so funny, but when this guy goes crazy, the consequences are very serious." Gu Weiwei threw a look at the female detective and smiled. Relief flashed across her eyes, as if she had let out a sigh of relief. She said with a gentle voice, "Excuse me, sister. I was in a hurry and left a distinguished guest there. I need to go home and apologize." "Sister, you don't have to be so formal here. Eat something and take a rest first." The beauty left gracefully, and the butler led the way respectfully towards the listening snow house. Zhang Yinluo was still thinking about Gu Weiwei's peerless beauty when she saw Sun Lang sneering. She asked with a low voice, "Hey, what is going on? Sister Gu is such a nice person. Why did you say that she is a man? How did you know?" Sun Lang snorted. "I just know." Zhang Yinluo pursed her lips. "How strange." Chapter 30. This garden occupied quite a large area, and it had many twists and turns like a maze. The two of them made many turns under the guidance of the manager before they arrived before a small building. The words Snow's Lament were written on a large plaque. The steward still had a decent and warm smile on his face as he courteously invited the two people in. There were several delicate and pretty maidservants in the building. Under the steward's instructions, they served tea, poured water, and placed seasonal fruits on the table. There were also 4 colored hot spots that were crispy and crispy. They looked, smelled, and tasted good. It was very appetizing. Zhang Yinluo was still a little restrained, but Sun Lang had long been impolite. He casually ate and drank to his heart's content. Zhang Yinluo rolled his eyes. You were so rude to Sister Gu today and said such crazy things. Aren't you afraid that she will poison you? Sun Lang swallowed the meat in his mouth. She's living well. Why would she want to die? Zhang Yinluo thought for a moment before he understood what Sun Lang meant. He said resentfully, I really don't know where you get your confidence from. Sun Lang's smile was full of meaning. The female constable looked at the tasteful decorations around her and looked at the famous paintings and paintings hanging on the walls. The items in this room were probably priceless. The garden where the Flying Phoenix Pavilion was located was even more priceless. That Sister Gu was so young, and yet she had built such a business. She was also so charming. She really deserved respect and envy. More importantly, how could such a celestial being be acquainted with this guy beside me who doesn't even know how to eat properly when sitting down? Moreover, their relationship was probably not limited to just knowing each other. Elder Sister Gu was so beautiful, so rich, so charming, and so rich. Those who coveted her must be as numerous as carps crossing the river. To be able to protect such a family business with such a stunning beauty, she must have the corresponding talent, power, and strength. Then there was the problem. Such an outstanding woman must be very proud. How could she not be angry after being treated so rudely by a man who had no etiquette at all and even called her a man? If it were me, I would have already taught him a lesson. However, Sister Gu looked more helpless than angry. Why wasn't she angry? Was their relationship so good that they didn't care about this kind of thing? She carefully recalled the conversation between the two of them. The conversation between the two of them was not something that ordinary friends would say, but the two of them seemed to be used to it. Even Sister Gu did not show any dissatisfaction, as if they were good friends who had known each other for many years. Could it be that they were childhood friends who grew up together? She suddenly remembered something Sun Lang said. He said, Mushroom, you stay. Mushroom? The female constable asked curiously. I heard you call Sister Gu Mushroom? Why do you call her that? Is it her nickname? Sun Lang showed a subtle smile. No. Then why do you call her that? The ranger's smile became even more subtle as he replied, Naturally, it's because he's grown. In this world, there were no pure and beautiful nursery rhymes like little girls picking mushrooms. There were also no perverts from neon to divert one's thoughts. So, Constable Zhang naturally did not understand this hint. She tilted her head and thought for a while, but she was completely clueless. She asked Sun Lang again, but the ranger refused to say anything. Zhang Yinluo beat around the bush, but did not get any useful information. She just sighed and said, You really scared me. I can't believe you really want to be a gigolo. And it doesn't look like an ordinary gigolo, but a management position with great power. It's so profitable, and it's easier than being a ranger. Why don't you do it? Sun Lang said expressionlessly, If someone tells you that you can make a lot of money by eating shit, you'll eat it? The female constable squinted and said, That's a bad example. Not long ago, you not only tricked a person into eating shit, but also taught him how to sell shit to make money. Sun Lang smiled gloomily and looked at Zhang Yinluo without saying anything. Zhang Yinluo shuddered and decisively raised his hands to surrender. I was wrong. I take back what I said before. Please forgive me. You're smart. Sun Lang snorted. Otherwise, I'll make you eat 5 cans of herring. The female constable was not convinced. How can I eat that kind of thing? The ranger laughed. If someone said before today that you have to hand over the Jinghong sword with both hands, what would you say? The female constable was speechless. She sighed and said, I have a hunch that messing with you might be the biggest mistake in my life. You deserve it. Sun Lang said disdainfully. Last night, you inexplicably suspected me. After losing the prisoner, you still suspect me. After suspecting me, you even want me to help you investigate the case. I've never seen someone as thick-skinned as you. That Xinyu became so strange. You're the one who caught her. Any normal person would suspect that you did something. Xinyu was taken away during the escort. Any normal person would think that you were the last person who came in contact with her. Please go back and make a statement to cooperate with the investigation. Is there a problem? And I'm not asking for your help for free. I've paid you. It's an imperial weapon. Zhang Yinluo said with grief and indignation. That's the imperial army, not the cabbages on the roadside. They were taken away by you just like that. And you still have the face to say that. If you can't find Xinyu, I'll go home and tell on you. Let's see how my uncle will deal with you. Sun Lang's eyes suddenly brightened as if he had thought of something very interesting. But a moment later, he shook his head. Forget it. I have to keep my promise. This kind of fishing is not my style. I don't know what you're talking about. Zhang Yinluo was used to his confusing words. She had no idea that she had escaped from the disaster because of someone's self-discipline. She was just about to complain about Sun Lang's bad behavior when footsteps arose from outside the door. Then a fragrant smell attacked them. Gu Weiwei pushed open the door and said with a smile, "Sorry to keep you waiting." The maids next to her bowed and left, leaving only the three of them in the room. Gu Weiwei stretched herself slightly, looking like a blooming daffodil. She leaned over the table, picked up a chestnut cake, opened her mouth, and slowly chewed it like a hamster. She looked very cute, and her posture was very graceful. It seemed that no matter what she did, she was extremely beautiful. Zhang Yinluo was both amazed and envious. "Sister, you look good no matter what you do," Gu Weiwei sighed. "Speaking of this, you must think that I am pretentious, but I am envious of you, little sister. Even if I lean over the table and eat the chestnut cake, I still look very good, right? This wasn't something I was born with. Ever since I was young, I've been taught all sorts of things. Every finger, every movement, every posture, every look, and every smile had strict rules. I had to follow them all because they were the most beautiful. Only then would I be able to attract everyone's attention. Just like that, day after day, I was constantly polished and trained. I'm not myself. I'm a carefully carved jade statue. I'm the most perfect model carved out by people's aesthetics and conclusions over the past thousands of years. I don't have a self. Now, every action of mine is instinctive. I maintain the most beautiful posture. If you want me to return to myself, I don't even know where to start." She did not sound sad. She was just talking in a low voice, but Zhang Yinluo could feel a sense of sadness from the bottom of her heart. Her eyes turned red. "Sister, all right, good sister. I am not saying these things for you to cry." Gu Weiwei pursed her lips and smiled. "There are gains and losses in this big world. What I have today is because I suffered enough back then. Don't worry about me. What I have now is good enough. What is more?" She threw a look at Sun Lang and said with a faint smile, "If it had not been for your hard experience that resonated with someone, I would not have met him and he would not have looked at me in the eye." Sun Lang said calmly, "Shut up and eat your cake." Okay, you're angry." Gu Weiwei stuck out her tongue and continued to eat the chestnut cake. Zhang Yinluo threw a look at Sun Lang and then at Gu Weiwei. There seemed to be a subtle aura between the two of them, which vaguely rejected her, making the female arrestor feel a bit awkward. She twisted her body and finally thought of what she was here for today. By the way, should we talk about Xinyu now?" Gu Weiwei looked up and said, "Xinyu? The one from the embroidery hall?" "Yes, I heard that she's a regular customer of yours." Sun Lang replied. He told her the cause of the matter, highlighting someone's pestering and someone's magnanimity. "Therefore, I have decided to be merciful and save a lost woman who longs for light and redemption. The clues lead to you, so I am here to ask you some questions. Please cooperate with our work." Before he finished speaking, he saw Gu Weiwei and Zhang Yinluo looking at each other with tears in their eyes. Gu Weiwei looked sad and sincere. Sister, I did not know that there was such a story. You were blackmailed by such a bad man and teased all the way. You have suffered so much. Zhang Yinluo nodded in agreement. Elder sister, from your expression, I can see that you were also tortured by him in the past, right? Beauty Gu sighed. It's more than that. Back then, Sun Lang put the canned herring on the table with a kind expression and said gently, let's get down to business. Chapter 31. The so-called business is... Gu Weiwei shook her head and said no. Zhang Yinluo got anxious. Sister, I am a businesswoman. Gu Weiwei said helplessly, the Flying Phoenix Pavilion is in this kind of business. Look at the brothels. There are always fierce and jealous women from noble families who come to the brothel with their maids. They might not even be able to catch their master, but the brothel keeper and the girl will be slapped hard on the face, and maybe the whole brothel will be smashed. Even men are at risk when they go to brothels. Wouldn't it be even more dangerous for us, who specialize in the business of women? In this world, men are the ones in power after all. How many successful men would be willing to see their wives come to such a place to seek pleasure? Even if the relationship between husband and wife is at daggers drawn, and there is no emotional foundation, even if we have a rule that forbids any form of physical exchange, even if we carefully screen every customer and refuse married women and daughters of powerful families to come to our door, there are very few men in this place who can tolerate it. She sighed. So, no matter if it is the Elephant Mansion or the brothel, the most important thing in our business is safety. The garden here is connected in all directions like a maze. That is safety. Apart from the main entrance, there are countless hidden doors and even tunnels. That is safety. No matter if it is a heroine, a widowed woman, or a noble lady who has been tacitly approved, they all wear masks when they visit the brothel. It is impossible for them to be followed, and there is no risk of their identities being exposed. That is safety. Every male prostitute has gone through the most thorough training and the most thorough training. They abide by etiquette and never lose their manners. They keep secrets so that the customers can confide in each other without any worries. That is safety. Gu Weiwei looked at the female detective seriously. And the safest thing is that we keep all the secrets of the customers and do not track down all the information of the customers. That is the foundation of our business and the reason why many customers choose us. How can I reveal anything about the customers? That is too difficult. Please allow me to turn it down. Zhang Yinluo anxiously said, we are not asking this because we want to do something bad, but because we want to save people. That Qin Yu has been kidnapped by the criminals. This is already certain. She is in danger at the moment. The sooner we find the clues, the sooner we can rescue her. Elder sister, you. Gu Weiwei looked embarrassed. Sister, it is not that I am unreasonable, but I really can't tell you. The female detective was about to persuade her when Sun Lang snorted. Isn't it obvious? If Qin Yu is here to meet with the employer, then the employer must also be a regular customer here, and his status must be noble. If he sells her, then there will be endless troubles. You just open your mouth and let this guy take the risk to sell the information and suffer the retaliation of the customer. Why? Only then did Zhang Yinluo come to a realization. But the next moment she exclaimed, employer? Here? Isn't this place only for female customers? Sun Lang picked his nose. Yeah, what's wrong? The female constable exclaimed, it's actually a woman? Why didn't you tell me? Why isn't she a woman? Sun Lang asked curiously. Look at the scratches and footprints in Qin Yu's house. Anyone who is not an idiot would be able to tell her gender from the angle of force and the way she wields the knife. Zhang Yinluo was taken advantage of again when she was not paying attention. But the female detective let out a sigh of relief and patted her chest. A woman is not bad. If she is a woman, Qin Yu's life will be at least 30% less, and she will not be violated or hurt physically. Before she finished speaking, Sun Lang and Gu Weiwei snorted at the same time, sounding disdainful. The female detective glared at them. What is it? Did I say something wrong again? Gu Weiwei said pleasantly, Sister, it is nothing. I didn't expect you to be so pure. Very good. Keep it up. Don't be tainted by someone. Sun Lang said disdainfully. As a feminist, you don't know anything about corruption, nor do you know anything about lesbians. You're simply too scheming. Let me tell you, when a woman becomes perverted, the meaning of their words was completely opposite, but their words were full of tacit understanding. For some reason, Zhang Yinluo felt slightly annoyed, so she said straightforwardly, although this woman is very bad, I still learned something. You can't expect others to have the same idea as you. Before you ask someone to do something, you have to give them a reward and make up for the losses they may suffer. Sister, is there anything I can do for you? Although you have made some progress, you're still a bit naive. Sun Lang said helplessly, do you think she is short of money? Or do you have another imperial army? If the matter is exposed, her family's reputation will be damaged, and she will be pursued and retaliated against. Do you have a way to help her? Do you want your family to help her? If you're willing to use the power of your family, you don't have to beg me. The female detective said, we can bring the criminal to justice. Then she won't be able to take revenge. Sun Lang sneered and said, how could she be alone? If the plan is not secret, she has countless ways to find someone to take the blame. Even if you have a way to take her to prison, her family, her master, her parents, and her forces will not be able to get rid of them all at once. Zhang Yinluo thought for a while and found that it was true. She said dejectedly, is there really no other way? Of course there is a way. Sun Lang snorted. Otherwise, she would have left long ago. She would not be sitting here talking nonsense with you. She is just asking for a sky-high price and sitting on the ground to pay back the money. The girl said happily, is that so? Sister Gu, if there is anything I can do, I will definitely. You're being silly again? What's the use of that little bit of weight of yours? Sun Lang snorted. Isn't it still coming for me? Gu Weiwei pursed her lips and said, smart. Zhang Yinluo was stunned for a moment. Then, a troubled expression appeared on his face. Big sister, this is my business. This is my decision. I can't cause trouble for others. Although I hired him, it's better for me to accept this matter. You are too weak to take it, but you still have a conscience. Sun Lang said with a smile. I said that I will do what I promised, so I will do it. Since I've taken your sword, then I'll help you find out the truth and defeat your enemy. This matter is also part of the entire deal, so you don't have to worry about it. Moreover, without me today, you wouldn't even be able to see her, let alone listen to her conditions. That's right, little sister. Don't blame big sister for being merciless. To be honest, if you didn't come looking for me today, you definitely wouldn't be able to see big sister, and I wouldn't have told you half a word. Gu Weiwei said with a smile, so if you want to talk about the terms of the deal, I should talk to him. Not you, Sun Lang patted the table. Stop wasting time. Tell me your terms. Gu Weiwei smiled. Tell me. The ranger snorted. Keep your sleep talk in your dreams. Beauty Gu's expression remained unchanged. So, but there's no negotiation? Sun Lang took hold of the canned herring and slammed it on the table. He said with a sincere expression, is there really no negotiation? I am scared of you. Gu Weiwei rolled her eyes. That is why I hate doing business with people like you the most. She put up one finger. First of all, you have to help me deal with all the possible problems. She meant that he had to show off and intimidate the robbers as much as he wanted, right? Sun Lang nodded and said, that is the meaning of the question, approved. She put up the second finger. Secondly, since you did not agree to my terms, I have to lower the bargaining chip on my side. I cannot tell you the identity of the client directly. I can only provide you with clues. That was to say, the person who met Qin Yu is very interesting and worth communicating with and learning from, right? Also, Qin Yu's life was not in danger for the time being, so she could have as much fun as she wanted, right? Sun Lang nodded constantly. No problem, you have your own position. I understand. Zhang Yinluo was dumbfounded, and then he felt a bit unbalanced. Why was she so straightforward? She was a totally different person when she was negotiating with him. Gu Weiwei nodded in satisfaction. Then let me tell you what I want. I want you to promise me one thing. When I need you in the future, do me one thing. The ranger nodded without thinking. No problem, I agree. Even Gu Weiwei was startled. So straightforward. Then I want you to. Sun Lang gave her a thumbs up and showed his shining teeth. Don't go too far. If I don't want to do it, I will flip the table. You. Gu Weiwei felt her forehead. I made a mistake. Chapter 32. After the deal was made, Gu Weiwei stuffed the last bit of chestnut cake in her mouth and mumbled, "Then come with me." She swallowed the cake with difficulty and smiled apologetically at Zhang Yinluo. "But sister, you have to stay here for a while. This is a secret of the Flying Phoenix Pavilion, and we can't let any outsiders see it. Wasn't this guy an outsider?" Zhang Yinluo threw a look at Sun Lang. For some reason, she felt a bit displeased. What did this guy do to deserve Sister Gu's special treatment? It was so confusing. She suppressed the throbbing in her heart and pretended to be cheerful. "Sister, come back soon." Gu Weiwei smiled and curled her fingers at Sun Lang. She smiled brightly and looked like a fairy who had descended to the mortal world. She was so passionate and shy that she was inviting him to her bed. She was so naturally seductive that she could steal the soul of any man in the world. But Sun Lang was not moved at all. Instead, he said, "I am an outsider too. Is it okay for me to see it?" Gu Weiwei rolled her eyes at him and left the small hall gracefully, leaving behind a beautiful back view. Zhang Yinluo glared at Sun Lang. "What are you doing here? Sister Gu is a fairy, and she doesn't treat you as an outsider. Why don't you know what is good for you? If I were you, I would have fainted because of joy. Go now." Sun Lang threw a strange look at her and thought for a while. Then he looked as if he was going to the execution ground. He picked up the canned herring on the table and followed her. "Put that thing down." Tingxua House had 4 floors, and it seemed to be Gu Weiwei's private room. Sun Lang quickened his pace and followed behind Gu Weiwei. The two of them walked on the expensive carpet one after the other. Beauty Gu stayed silent for a moment and said with a smile, "Changed your taste? You like girls with big breasts? But it seems that this girl hasn't tasted your beauty yet. Has she really changed her taste?" Sun Lang said coldly, "It's just a business deal. Although this woman is very troublesome and has a one-track mind, and was rude to me at the beginning, how can I not do it when business comes to me? I offer her the price of an Imperial Army sword. Since she could afford it, there was no need for me to turn her away. Besides, it's not bad to have some fun occasionally. You could be hired to work for the Imperial Army?" Gu Weiwei's eyes brightened. She turned around and said, It varies from person to person," Sun Lang said indifferently. "If it's you, it's more expensive." Gu Weiwei puffed out her cheeks. "You are so annoying. You are so cold to me. You will regret it in the future." After sulking for a moment, a certain thought stirred in her mind. She cautiously asked, "What's the price of hiring you for a lifetime?" Sun Lang did not answer but squinted at her as if to say, "You idiot." All right. I know that I'm not even qualified to ask you such a question now, but one day I will make enough money." Gu Weiwei waved her little fists and changed the topic. "By the way, are you really not interested in that girl? Have you been eating vegetarian food these days? For an Imperial Army sword. If you need the Imperial Army, why don't you just rob it? You are not a person who is bound by morality and law before." Wrong. The meaning of morality is to make a person better, and the law is the bottom line of morality, which stipulates that a person cannot be too bad. But this is only for the weak. Sun Lang Sunran said, "The rulers of this country are all king idiots. The laws they make to rule the people are not qualified to bind me. But morality is different. Morality binds the weak, but the real strong use morality to regulate themselves. I don't think that I'm a good person, but I also agree with this point, and I will also use the most basic morality and bottom line to self-discipline and self-control. When a person has power but does not have the corresponding temperament and self-control, sooner or later, he will be immersed in this power and gradually become less and less like a human. I am still young, and I don't want to be a heartless psychopath who is above all other people." He looked at Gu Weiwei and said seriously, "You also have to remember that the stronger a person is, the more they should realize that there are things in this world that they can never do. Only in this way can they have respect and self-control. Things that can't be done? Startled, Gu Weiwei looked at Sun Lang and said with a smile, "Is there anything in this world that you can't do?" "Yes, this is the thing that I have learned the most in the past few years." The ranger nodded calmly. He stayed silent for a moment and whispered, "No matter how strong I am, I can't go home." His tone was calm, but Gu Weiwei could hear the great sadness and regret in his words. Her heart ached. She turned around and pretended to be normal as she asked, "Home? I don't have a home anymore. I don't even remember what a home looks like." "Your home? Was your life very happy before?" Sun Lang was startled for a moment, and then he recalled the past and nodded. "Yes, very happy. It was a place where war could barely enter, an ordinary and peaceful world. You don't have the peerless martial power of sword energy that can travel 30,000 miles, and you don't need this. You can live a stable and peaceful life as an ordinary person. You can do what you like, and your days get better day by day. You can think about the future with hope and expectation. You can imagine that one day you will meet the person you like and live with her. You can watch the world constantly change and enjoy the convenience brought by the progress of mankind. You can live like this day by day. Although you sometimes feel a little bored, now that you think about it, ordinary life is so precious. That is really a very, very good place," Gu Weiwei said softly. Gu Weiwei said softly as a melancholic thought arose in her mind. She asked with a gentle voice, "If I gave you a chance to return to your hometown and the peaceful life you desire at the cost of giving up all your power, would you be willing to do so?" This time, unexpectedly, Sun Lang's answer was resolute and firm. "Never." Gu Weiwei looked up in astonishment, because for the past 6 years, all the pain and torture, all the blood and tears, everything that they forced on me, I will not let it go so easily. Sun Lang's tone was still calm, but Gu Weiwei could clearly feel that a violent and furious flame was burning in his heart, roaring and trying to break through the restraint of reason. There is no such thing as a free lunch in the world. I have never, ever, ever planned to forgive them, nor have I ever, ever, ever planned to let them go. 8 years ago, they forcefully summoned me from my hometown and unreasonably took away my originally peaceful life. They threw me into the Azura battlefield to fight for their shitty, despicable, and stupid country. These things, everything I experienced, everything they forced on me, I will never forget it for the rest of my life." He whispered, "Do you know that every night I am filled with hatred, and I can only use hatred to keep my mind from collapsing, because I don't even have a chance to commit suicide. Since they want to deprive me of the right to choose death, then I will hate them with all my life and soul. I treated every enemy I killed as a future version of myself. I felt great when I saw every wounded soldier on my side wailing in pain. Seeing them summoning the souls of their comrades, crying for their fellow soldiers, and holding back their grief, I am so happy that I am about to laugh out loud. How ridiculous, how funny, a group of heroes with blood and tears cry for their fellow soldiers who died for their country. The brotherhood is so touching, but this group of bastards, while crying through the most innocent person who had nothing to do with this war onto the battlefield and watched him collapse in despair in the blood and slaughter, without even having the right to end his own life. What a F***king joke. They're the most hypocritical, hateful, and damned group of people in the world. Every time I see them like that, I swear in my heart that one day I will make them cry 1,000 times more miserably than before. I will destroy whatever they want to protect, little by little, in front of them. I want to see them cry themselves hoarse and cry themselves blind. I want to see them cry themselves hoarse and cry themselves blind. I want to see them unable to hurt me, even if the hatred in their hearts converges into the North Sea. Then I will tell them that this is how I felt at that time. This is the pain I have experienced, and now I am returning it to them. Sun Lang's words became more and more agitated, but suddenly a pair of soft and cold hands took hold of his right hand, causing the ranger to wake up instantly. He took a deep breath and said, "Do you want me to let go of my hatred too? You saved me. You gave me my life, so my mission is to make you live a better life." Gu Weiwei gripped Sun Lang's hand tightly. Although the Tianyuan War had ended 2 years ago, and he was so free and unrestrained now, the man in front of her had not woken up from that nightmare. In his heart, that war had never ended. She whispered, "Hatred will destroy you. Hatred will devour you. My reason tells me that even if you kill everyone you think deserves to die, your heart will not be at peace. I want you to live a better life, so I will do everything I can to heal your old wounds, to make you let go of the past, and to make you understand that there are countless futures worth cherishing and embracing." But she slowly smiled. If all hatred could be let go, there would be no disputes in this world. I will do everything I can to make you let go of the past. But if I fail, if you still think that you want revenge, then I will not try to persuade you anymore. I will accompany you, kill people, or set fires. Let the world fall into endless pain and darkness, and let everyone struggle in pain. If I can't persuade you, then I will accompany you to take revenge, help you kill people and set fires, and give you advice. Anyway, I will always be with you no matter what. Seeing that Sun Lang still didn't answer, she raised her eyebrows. "Why don't we start now? We will kill all the way from Mingzhou City to the capital." "No, now is not the time. Also, there's still some things that have not been done." Sun Lang said slowly, "I made a promise with someone. He is the only person I feel indebted to, and I do not dare to disobey his last words." Gu Weiwei knew not to ask more. The beauty thought for a moment, and suddenly said with a smile, "That is to say, I still have time and opportunity to persuade you to repent, right?" Sun Lang snorted. "What a waste of effort." Beauty Gu giggled. She felt the warmth from his palms, and her heart softened. She gently leaned into his arms. But in the next moment, she was pushed away by a finger on her forehead. "You are insatiable," Sun Lang said coldly. "You've already taken advantage of me by holding hands with you. If you continue to be greedy, I'll slap you. Do you know, if you're a woman, you'd be lying on the ground by now?" Gu Weiwei rolled her eyes inwardly, feeling both annoyed and amused at the same time. But sooner or later, she chuckled, stuck out her tongue at Sun Lang, ran a few steps, and pushed open a door. "Here it is." Staring at Beauty Gu's beautiful face and figure, Sun Lang thought back to her resolute and unquestionable decision. Sun Lang was stunned for a moment and then shook his head. Damn, it was a pity that she was a man. Chapter 33. Zhang Yinluo, who had stuck her head out for the 5th time, finally saw Sun Lang. For some reason, the ranger looked a bit unnatural. "Let's go. Where's Sister Gu?" The female detective seemed to have a very good impression of Beauty Gu. According to the theory of the attractiveness of best friends in the modern world, a girl who is extremely beautiful and dressed very fashionably would probably have an average-looking best friend. It was hard to tell what the reason was. But now it seemed that Zhang Yinluo was probably a silly girl who did not know how to be jealous. Damn, Gu Weiwei was so beautiful, yet she did not label her as a coquettish bitch in her heart and tried to stay as far away from her as possible. That was strange. She takes care of 10,000 chickens every day. Oh no, she takes care of 10,000 ducks every day. She's very busy, so she doesn't have time to waste on you. The moment the female detective mentioned Gu Weiwei, Sun Lang's expression changed again. He rolled his eyes at Zhang Yinluo and said, "What? Are you planning to have an intimate conversation with him so that you can talk about your sisterhood and then cut off the chicken's head and burn some yellow paper to become sworn sisters? Then, according to the standard plot, this guy will pat his chest and say, 'My dear sister, you can stay here tonight. I'll send 5 of the best young men in the Flying Phoenix Pavilion to accompany you.' That's a very loyal thing. Then, you'll have a plan?" Zhang Yinluo's face flushed red. She jumped up and bellowed, "I am not going to do that. Girl, don't be shy and don't hide your desires. It is not shameful." Sun Lang spread his hands and said, "According to your theory of equality between men and women, women, like men, have the right to be lustful. Since an ignorant youth yearns to roll around in bed with a group of big-breasted sisters, then it's not strange for a pure and cute young girl to fantasize about being treated with a body full of burly men. Ha ha ha! As he said this, he turned around and pretended to shout outside. Hey, Mushroom, how many young masters is your sister Zhang going to flirt with? Shut up. Zhang Yinluo became anxious and rushed over to cover Sun Lang's mouth. However, the ranger reacted quickly and dodged her. So troublesome. I told you not to touch me. But after this scene, the female detective had no intention of staying to say goodbye to Gu Weiwei. She sighed and said, let's go. The two of them left the Tingxua house, and the butler was waiting outside. When he saw Sun Lang, he bowed respectfully. Master asked me to see you off. Please follow me. Once again, they passed through the maze that extended in all directions, going around and around the garden. Finally, the housekeeper saw them off and left through a side door. The horses that the two people had left behind earlier had already been brought to the door. After getting the horses, Sun Lang was still silent. Zhang Yinluo gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, thank you. Sun Lang squinted at her. When did you become so polite? I have always been polite. I'm only rude to some people who don't know what they are doing. Zhang Yinluo replied furiously, but she softened her attitude and whispered, although I don't know what you have promised, Sister Gu, don't worry. I owe you one too. As long as it is within my power, I will do it. The ranger grinned. Girl, you're quite principled. Have you thought it through? If Mushroom's request is too ridiculous, I can flip the table anytime, but you can't. I can flip the table anytime too. Zhang Yinluo's heart skipped a beat when he saw Zhao Yu smile and gaze. Then, he made threatening gestures to encourage himself and threatened fiercely. If you make any shameless or unreasonable requests, I'll run home and tell on you. I will write a letter to my master. Let them teach you a lesson. Hee, your family and sect will teach me a lesson? Now that you mention it, I am even more interested. Sun Lang raised his eyebrows and laughed. What do you mean by shameless requests? Give me an example. Zhang Yinluo blushed and snorted heavily. She turned her head to one side and did not answer. I will not fall for your tricks. You only know how to tease people all day long. She seemed to have thought of something and looked at Sun Lang angrily. Her eyes were full of contempt. I heard Sister Gu say that she has also fallen for your tricks before. I say, how are you so good at it? You can always bully and tease girls. How many times have you teased her? Sun Lang said angrily. Why are you slandering me again? Why are you so good at it? How many people have you slandered? Even if I'm desperate, I will not lay my hands on a man. You are saying that she is a man again. Zhang Yinluo stomped her feet and shouted, Sister Gu is so beautiful. Her skin and figure are also beautiful. I have never seen a woman more feminine than her in my life. It is so rude to say that she is a man. So how can you say that she is a man? Do you have any evidence? Sun Lang snorted and repeated what he said before. I just know. Zhang Yinluo was not satisfied with this answer. So how do you know? Believe me, you don't want to know the real answer. If you put it that way, I care very much. The two of them continued to bicker as they left with their horses. On the fourth floor of the Tingxua house, Gu Weiwei looked into the distance and could vaguely see the two figures. The beauty sighed in a daze. She looked so sweet yet a bit angry, as if she was blaming someone for not knowing how to flirt. That fleeting gentleness was enough to make countless heroes bow down to her. She was holding a book in her hands, and the title of the book could be seen faintly at the top. Indeed, she's not very suitable. She's a bit too straightforward, not tactful enough, and not very cute. She also learned some strange principles from the Western continent. Apart from her large breasts, she doesn't have many redeeming qualities. From her personality and behavior, she's not very feminine. She thought that temperament could be trained, ideas could be changed, temperament and appearance could also be trained. But Sun Lang and she were only working together once, and after the matter was solved, they would not have any more chances to meet each other. Sun Lang had always regarded women as the source of trouble. After the matter was settled, their relationship would probably come to an end. Moreover, due to his special physique, once the two of them came into physical contact, due to an accident or irresistible factor, Sun Lang would not hesitate to abandon Zhang Yinluo and leave. He would no longer be entangled with her, because if this happened, it meant that the relationship between the two of them had completely changed. What a troublesome body. But thinking about it from another perspective, it means that only Her mouth showed a trace of a smile, but that smile was quickly replaced by seriousness and sternness. Now is not a good time, and it is not suitable. My matter is a small matter. His matter is the most important. Before an unknown time limit, I have to find a way to let him let go of the past. At the very least, I have to create enough fetters and things worth cherishing for him, so that he will be bound and worried, and curb the tyrannical and strong desire to self-destruct in the depths of his heart. But before that, she looked again at Zhang Yinluo's book in her hand and shook her head with a little pity. Although she was a good girl, her personality and three views were too different from Sun Lang. She was not suitable, but fortunately, there were still many choices, such as she smiled slightly. The world is so big. I don't believe in this evil. At this moment, undisguised footsteps could be heard from outside. The hurried and powerful footsteps reflected the strength of the person who had come. A moment later, the door was forcefully pushed open, and a valiant, tall woman with sharp eyes walked in. She was dressed in tight clothes and wore a butterfly-shaped half-mask on her face. The mask was exquisite and beautiful, and it was something that came from the Western continent. Every customer who came to the Flying Phoenix Pavilion would wear these beautiful and mysterious masks in order to hide their identity. This female customer took 2 steps forward with her slender and powerful legs and asked coldly, "How's the matter?" Gu Weiwei turned around and smiled brightly. "I have already revealed the so-called information to those 2 people, as you requested." Chapter 34. Gu Weiwei turned around and smiled brightly. "I have already revealed the information to those 2 people according to your instructions." The mysterious woman, who was dressed like a heroine in a mask, nodded. "That's good. There are so many complications in this matter. The cause is actually the eldest daughter of the Zhang family in Mingzhou, who has a strong sense of justice and wants to plead for a female cat burglar. What a ridiculous reason. Yet I have been put in such a passive and embarrassing situation. Things in the world are always changing beyond everyone's expectations. No. I think the most unpredictable change in the world is nothing more than Qin Yu, who is itching to go out and make some extra money, being casually defeated by a ranger who had just changed his job class. Really, after hearing the cause of this matter, I really want to cry for you guys. Just how miserable must you be to have bumped into this guy head-on and not even be able to escape from him?" Although Gu Weiwei complained inwardly, she still showed a look of fear and worry. She said cautiously, "Yes, and the key point is that she is the most beloved lady of the Zhang family of Mingzhou, and she is also an excellent disciple of the Vulture Spirit Palace. If you touch her, the Zhang family will definitely investigate and take revenge. The consequences are very serious, and the Flying Phoenix Pavilion can't afford it. So please, don't worry." The masked heroine snorted coldly. "Even if it's us, we're not interested in starting a full-scale war with the Zhang family. I know what I'm doing. If I am right, the key point this time is not the lady of the Zhang family, but the ranger. I think that I have arranged everything perfectly, and even if the lady of the Zhang family wants to investigate, she will not find any clues. But she has traced all the way here, so it must be because of the ranger. This ranger is very cunning and smart. He is indeed investigating this matter. That is to say, the encounter in front of the temple was planned by him." Gu Weiwei resisted the urge to burst into laughter and played along with her seriously. "Temple? Planned?" The masked heroine slowly nodded. "Yes, when Miss went to the Lingguang temple to offer incense, she encountered this person outside the temple. He had a conflict with the guards, and his mouth was full of cynical remarks. I thought he was a hothead, But Miss said that all of this seemed too coincidental, and his behavior was too strange. Maybe he did it on purpose. At first, I didn't believe it, but after secretly investigating it, I was shocked. He really did have other plans. He actually went as far as to investigate Qin Yu's matter together with Miss Zhang. It seems that the encounter outside the temple was indeed carefully planned and arranged by him. It seems that he has long been paying attention to us. No. If he knew that it was you who did it and was going to investigate this matter, he would definitely try his best to provoke and flirt with you, until you could not stand it anymore and were about to kill this reckless young man. Then he would hack all of you with his sword and start to force you to tell the truth. If you did not tell the truth, he would touch you. If you lied, he would touch you again. Nan Wu-san, what a convenient way to force a confession. I guarantee that after 18 touches, you will forget your surname and where you came from. You will be drooling and rolling your eyes, answering whatever questions you are asked. A strange smile flashed across Beauty Goo's eyes, and then she said seriously, "So, you're going to do something to the ranger? That is the best choice." The masked woman said, "The lady of the Zhang family is a troublesome person, and there are too many people behind her. Even if we just hurt her, the Zhang family will not let it go. Also, the key point of this matter is that mercenary. He had a sharp tongue, many ideas, and a good brain. The fact that Lady Zhang was able to trace all the way to the Flying Phoenix Pavilion must be because of his advice and analysis. In this case, if anything happens to this paladin, Ms. Zhang will become a headless fly. With her skills, she won't be able to find out the truth even after 800 years. Gu Weiwei nodded and pretended to be worried. That ranger does not seem to be a simple person. Humph! How capable can a ranger be? He's just relying on schemes, ideas, and firearms. The masked woman said disdainfully, "He is so young, yet he is not concentrating on practicing martial arts or cultivating his mind. Instead, he is studying those strange skills. I went to the embroidery hall to spy on him and found that he was making a scene at the embroidery hall by using such a disgusting method. Anyone with a bit of dignity as a warrior would never do such a thing. This is a man who does not play by the rules, who is smart and unscrupulous. You will never be able to guess what he will do next. So the best way to deal with him is to ignore all his schemes and crush him with absolute strength." Gu Weiwei nodded and agreed with a serious look. "Weiwei doesn't know anything about killing. Since you are so confident, then I wish you success. You don't have to mock me. I don't want to be a good person. My hands are already stained with blood, so I don't mind dirtying them again." The masked heroine said calmly, "The two of them can't be traced anymore. I want to nip all the dangerous signs in the bud. Besides, that paladin has set his sights on the lady. He wants to get close to and use her. I will never allow this to happen." Gu Weiwei lowered her head and said submissively, Yes. Both the Zhang family of Mingzhou and Marquis Jing'an's mansion are too powerful for the Flying Phoenix Pavilion to resist. Don't cause any trouble and put the blame on the small fry. The Flying Phoenix Pavilion is not as powerful as the Marquis Mansion, but we have such a powerful backer." The masked woman's face changed. Her tall and strong body suddenly tensed up, as if she was going to pounce on her in the next moment. She snapped, "What did you say?" "Don't worry, Butler Sue. Weiwei has been traveling around the world since she was a child. She has made some achievements, and I don't have any particularly successful experiences. But there is one thing that I think is very important, and that is that you must keep your promises." Facing the man's murderous look, Gu Weiwei's expression did not change. She said calmly, "The Flying Phoenix Pavilion never betrays our clients' information. So this time, even if Mississippi Zhang came to threaten us with the power of the Zhang family of Mingzhou, I did not give in. Instead, I revealed some useful information to them so that they would fall into your trap. But please understand that the Flying Phoenix Pavilion is not made of mud." Butler Sue's eyes flashed fiercely, but he knew very well that this woman was very cunning. If she dared to say this in front of him, then she must not be afraid of being killed. He thought for a moment and said coldly, "What do you want? I am just a businesswoman. How would I dare to threaten Marquis Jing'an's mansion? Gu Weiwei blinked and looked very weak. She took light steps and put the book in her hands on the table. She said cheerfully, "Butler Su, do you know what is the strongest alliance in this world? Having the same enemy? Having a very close relationship with the leaders of two forces? Having the same interests? Actually, it is not. What kind of alliance is the most reassuring? Of course, it is an alliance that has a trump card. Once both sides have something that can make the other side lose all hope, I think that this kind of alliance is the most reassuring and unbreakable. What do you think, Butler Su?" Butler Su's tone was Sunran. "Nonsense. This is not nonsense. Someone once told me a story. He said that in this world, there's a very interesting world. The major countries in this world all have a terrifying weapon that is invincible and can even make a large country collapse in an instant. But because these countries all have this weapon, they are afraid of each other and do not dare to use it. So although that weapon is the most terrifying killing weapon in history, it has not killed a single person for decades. Instead, it is the ordinary weapon that every soldier is equipped with that has killed countless people." Gu Weiwei blinked and said with a smile, "The story is very strange, but makes a lot of sense. Although I cannot imagine what kind of weapon can make the land barren and barren, I can imagine that if only the Empire has this kind of weapon, then a war will definitely break out. The world is so big and there are so many countries. There will only be destruction or surrender. There will be no other way out, and I don't know how many people will die tragically. And if the 5 most powerful countries in this world all have this kind of weapon, then it will obediently stay in the armory, and no one will dare to use it." Butler Su's face was extremely cold. "Shameless. This is the way of survival for businessmen. Please don't be offended, Butler Su." Gu Weiwei said with a smile, "We are afraid of the power of Marquis Jing'an's mansion, so we cooperate with you to harm Miss Zhang. It is fine if you want to kill her, but you don't dare to take the risk of angering the Zhang family. This makes things very difficult for me. If you don't kill Miss Zhang, if this matter is exposed in the future, the Zhang family will definitely not start a war with Marquis Jing'an's mansion because of this small matter. After all, Miss Zhang is unharmed, right? You just need to give some gifts and humble yourselves, and you will be forgiven. But what about us? The Zhang family is afraid of Marquis Jing'an's mansion, but it is not difficult to deal with Flying Phoenix Pavilion. If we don't want to die, we need to seek your protection. But Marquis Jing'an's mansion can't work for free, right? Do you want Flying Phoenix Pavilion's wealth and intelligence?" Gu Weiwei said softly. "At the very least, even if the Zhang family doesn't know about it, with your Mrs. Temper, she will definitely use this matter to threaten us and force us to get closer to Marquis Jing'an's mansion. I know that maybe Weiwei has a vicious heart and is measuring the heart of a gentleman with the heart of a villain. But we are all lonely businessmen who have no one to rely on and are wandering the world. If we don't wake up soon, it is not surprising that we will be eaten alive." When she said this, her eyes actually turned red and she started to wipe away her tears. That pitiful and helpless look would make all the men who saw her have the impulse to protect her at all costs. But Butler Su was not moved. Her eyes were cold and murderous intent rose and fell in her eyes. But in the end, she let out a long sigh. She did not dare to take this risk, because the Marquis mansion was already walking on a thin steel wire, and below their feet was a bottomless abyss. The slightest breeze would cause them to be smashed into pieces. "Tell me, what do you want to know?" Half an hour later, Gu Weiwei nodded in satisfaction and said with a smile, "Butler Su, in this case, our alliance will be unbreakable." Butler Su's face turned pale as he glared at her fiercely. "Watch your mouth. You should understand that if this matter is exposed, what awaits you will not be the pursuit of Marquis Jing'an's mansion and the Zhang family of Mingzhou. I'm a sensible person and I know what to do." Gu Weiwei's eyes flashed with a trace of seriousness as she nodded. Businessmen are most afraid of death. Butler Su nodded and turned to leave. He did not want to stay here for a moment longer. "Butler Su, please wait," Gu Weiwei said calmly. "I have been rude about what happened today. Wei Wei has one more thing that I don't know if I should say. The masked woman stopped and said slowly, "What is it?" Marquis Jing'an's mansion is asking a tiger for its skin. Although I don't know the other party's background, I know that there is no free lunch in this world, and no one is willing to do a losing business. Gu Weiwei said with a low voice, "Since the other party has invested so much, they must want more. Their plan must be so big that it must be shocking. I know, but there is no turning back." Housekeeper Su closed his eyes and said softly, "The family has fallen. Father and daughter are separated forever. The collateral branches are coveting the family business, and those with evil intentions are as numerous as carps crossing the river. Who knows how many people are eyeing this marquis throne? Who knows how many people want to swallow this marquis estate clean? Eldest young miss alone won't be able to support this. I understand, but I believe that you could see the risks involved." Gu Weiwei said, "If there is a chance that can help you get rid of this dangerous quagmire, there's no chance." Butler Su said resolutely, "There is no turning back." She did not give Gu Weiwei any chance to say anything more. She quickly left the room and walked down the stairs until the sound of her footsteps disappeared. Gu Weiwei's expression instantly became cheerful. She shook her head and suddenly rolled her eyes, saying disdainfully, "Idiot." Beauty Gu pondered for a moment. Then, she rolled her eyes and giggled. She mumbled to herself, "Although I tricked you, I also gave you a chance. Whether you can grasp it or not will depend on your luck." She turned around and took down another book from the bookshelf. Opening it, the words Marquis Jing and Fu were written on the front of the book. She carefully looked at it for a moment and muttered to herself, "This is not bad. At least it's a bit better than that Zhang Yin Luo. It's smart enough, and buy one get one free. This steward Su is valiant and outstanding, loyal and devoted. Looking at his figure and features, he even has the appearance of an inner charm." That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.